me to prove it, I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top, we're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top, we're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'll never go back down. Hand over my heart, I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing. It was a little over 110 years ago that Carl Fisher started creation of a certain place known, and that became the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 108 years ago, we had ourselves the first ever Indianapolis 500, won in innovative style by Ray Haroon. iRacing commenced their journey back in 2010, bringing a virtual feel to the Indianapolis 500, and since then we have had 9 races with 9 different winners. Here today we are guaranteed to make it 10 winners out of 10 on the showpiece of the iRacing calendar as we welcome you to Speedway, Indiana, and welcome to the 10th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. It's live here on Racebot TV and as ever on the iRacing Esports Network. Drivers are just about 4 minutes away from heading themselves down to the starting grid. There's a look at your track conditions. It's 26 degrees Celsius in the air. That's 45 degrees track temperature, so it's pretty hot out there here today. Wind speed, they're slight at 3 kilometers an hour. Race relative humidity, 55%. Wolverton here along with Randy Cheneth, and well, it just wouldn't be Indy without hearing our good friend, our former past friend, Mr. Jim Neighbors. And one of the good things about the virtual world is we can still bring his voice back to life one more time for you.
Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still burning bright through the sycamores for me. The new moon hay fragrant through the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, how I long for my Indiana home.
It just wouldn't be the Indianapolis 500 without back home again in Indiana. And even though Jim Corneliuson's done such a fantastic job of singing that song the last couple of years, it just isn't the same without Jim.
No, I mean it's not the same as we miss Jim Neighbors definitely, but traditions are always kept alive here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But I think we need to start thinking now and start looking at this field, Will, because we have a number of cars that did not show up. Like you said, we're guaranteed a new winner here today. Josh Shin not in attendance. I think was the only previous winner who was really in a realistic running to make top split. We got about a minute and a half before we get gridding for 200 laps around this icon of motorsport.
Yeah, we're on board right now with Michael Chin. He's a driver that basically lives, shall we say, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He takes part in things like Nights to Indy. He's done more laps than almost any other driver around this racetrack. He is going to be one that you really want to keep an eye out on. John Goke, you can see him there. He's on pit road in the last lap motorsports car. He has won a top split race in the past, but just never this broadcasted race. Kevin Ellis Jr., he's one driver to keep an eye out on. He has been very interesting to watch over the years. He's taken part in that Evolution Racing Team car. And let's not forget Martin Miller in that number 6 RaceBot liveried car. He came so close last year, Randy, until he had that incident on lap number 199 down at turn 3.
Yeah, that was really tight there for Martin. I know that he didn't really have the pace to potentially win that sort of situation. He was definitely playing that as a gamble, but I'll say this right now. He's got the classic dark red Martin colors with the RaceSpot logos on it. That car looks fast, and I think it's going to be fast. Martin always finds a way towards the front of these fields and almost always finds a way to be relevant here at the Speedway.
Yeah, it is. We are now at the very, very end of practice. There's a look then at what next week will become one of the largest cities in America due to the fact that you have over 350,000 people heading themselves just outside Indianapolis, about 5 miles to the northwest. But that is it. Warm-up is over, and all the practice, all of the qualifying, everything, it just now comes down to this 200-lap event. Let's run you through then your starting grid for the 10th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500-mile race. And at the front of your field, it is Marco Brazil. He set himself a qualifying 4-lap average of 39.088, getting himself pole position by just about 1/10 of a second over Silberto Roberto Sanchez. Row number 2 will be Alan Moria, and then Bradley Walters, Randy, rolls out on the outside of row 2.
Row number 3, you have J.R. Barbarema in the 5th spot with Rick Music starting on the outside of him. Alex Montanelli in that 7th spot, and Brandon Trano on the 8th spot there in row number 4. 2 newcomers on the insides of rows 3 and 4. 2 experienced veterans of this race on the outside of rows 3 and 4.
Off to row number 5, and you've got yourself Henry Bennett and Kevin Ellis Jr., 2 drivers from Club UK and Ireland. And then you've got Michele Constantini on the inside of row number 6. Joining him on that 6th row of the grid will be Simon Bryant. And note the fact that your top 11 drivers were separated in qualifying by less than half of a 1/10 of a second, Randy.
Whole field is going to be tight as they roll off. John Downing is going to roll off on the inside of row number 7 with Emerson Takashima on the outside of him. And then it's Roe Christian here on row number 8. Christian Challoner, NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series driver, will roll off 15th with Christian Steele on his outside in 16th.
Row number 9, you got Jeff Drake. He's led laps here before at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then in Hoosier himself, Mr. Christopher on the outside of row 9. Row 10, Carlos Washington, and then David Adams.
Martin Miller, we talked about him during the warm-up. He's going to roll off 21st with Vinicius Gottardello on the outside of row number 11. And then AJ Burton and Alex Simpson will hold up row number 12.
Row number 13 will be Adam Blocker. He's raced many times here at Indy. And then Chad Simpson. Row number 14, Michael Chin. Jonathan Goke, who's won a top split here before, but never the broadcasted race. And then running out your field, Liam Quinn, Riley Thompson, Brendan Lichtenberg, Dylan Freckleton. That makes your 32 car field here today. So we've done all the talking, we've done the long pre-race show, but now is the case of these drivers just getting themselves ready to go racing for a total of 200 laps here around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And it will be Marco Brazil at the front of this field, bringing the 32 drivers to the green flag here on RaceSpot TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. And for the 10th time, we can say that the iRacing Indianapolis 500 is almost underway, and there we see the start then by Marco Brazil as the drivers will head themselves down in towards turn number 1 for the first time. The first question mark is always, do the drivers survive themselves through that first lap, through turn number 1? All drivers look as though they're through without incident. Now they head themselves down into turn number 2 for the first time, and Randy, it looks as though we got ourselves off to a nice clean start for the first half a lap.
Might be clean, but it's not calm as the whole field is stacked up. Marco really set this race going a little bit late. Silvio Sanchez at the head of the field in second, a little bit wide through turn 3. You see behind him the likes of Bradley Walters and Alan Morea. They're fighting. Broken Arrow car with a big run. That's Brandon Treno in the 3. He's already made up a ton of ground from 8th on the grid. I believe he's going to be 5th as they cross the stripe.
That's fantastic start there by Brandon Treno. Almost a bit like Tony Kanaan going round the outside, inside of anyone possible, as he's actually now battling to move up into the 4th position. So Brandon Treno then getting himself the early advantages as he works himself now through the field, but he actually falls back down into 5th place for the time being. Ahead of them, Bradley Walters and Alan Moria, they're battling it out now for 3rd place on track, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers separated by just about 0.2 of a second.
32 car field, 4.8 seconds first trip around the 2.5 mile speedway as they work their way through. Look at Bradley Walters and Silvio Sanchez, 2nd and 3rd, and a little bit of a peek up the inside from the 27 on his teammate Marco Brazil, and this is going to be a talking point. And look at the run that Bradley Walters can get around the outside of turn 1. He's going to take 2nd spot away from Silvio, and now we have the run on Marco down the back straightaway and at the inside in towards turn number 3.
And here comes Bradley Walters then, looking for the first lead change of the day. In towards turn number 3 they come. Bradley Walters in the Sadie Sims Autosports car, moving himself to the top of the field. But now we're going to see how Marco's car is going to work in that dirty air for the first time here, Randy. We're going to get a good run. He's actually looking for the race lead. Won't lead the lap with Brazil, but he moves himself to the inside and retakes P1.
And Bradley's going to be calm on the outside. Watch the exit of turn 1. I see a couple cars up in the 3rd lane and 1 in the wall. 2 or 3 cars upside down. Emerson Takashima is involved with this. Another car as well. Huge incident here early at Indy.
Yep, let's get ourselves a replay then, shall we? This is down in towards turn number 1, and let's have a look. Takashima, we're on board of him now, just turning one of the Alliance cars around, and that is, well, Takashima, huge incident for him, and AJ Burton involved in that one as well. Want to get ourselves another look. That is from our cameras, but we want to have a look now on board with AJ Burton in the Team i5G with Broken Arrow and ERT car. Well, the good news is, Randy, that name was a handful to say, but unfortunately AJ Burton is out of this event.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge incident. And I was actually getting ready to start talking about it, Will, because of course we talked about it during the pre-race show, the huge Brazilian representation here in this race. We don't have a lot of the cars from that group, but Brazilians, they have a reputation for being aggressive, and we saw that with that move that brought out the caution, and we actually just saw it from the 2 team cars at the head of the field when they were running for that race lead. We saw that 2nd place running car poke the nose on Marco Brazil and end up costing Marco the lead for a short time. You can't run all 200 miles of this race like this, and these guys really need to figure something out and get themselves single file early and really calm it down, because if you're in a situation if you're Silvio Sanchez poking the nose on your teammate inside of turn 1, inside of the first 5 laps like that, and handing Sadie Autosport that race lead, Team Brazil is not going to find themselves walking away from this event with a race win.
Yeah, by the way, live timing and scoring will be available after the conclusion of the VRS GT iRacing World Championship race, which is just finishing off at Imola right now. We're going to take over timing and scoring once that race is scored complete. So, Marco Brazil, he's not coming on towards pit road. He's clearly dummying onto a lot of drivers on towards pit road. He is going to come in. No, he's not. There we are. First dummy of the day. We were expecting some dummies, and we did get some dummies there early on. We do see, though, a few drivers coming on towards pit road, and this is when the split strategy here, Randy, is going to come on early. We've got ourselves, just counting, 2, 4, about 9 drivers, I think, coming on towards the lane right now.
Yeah, there's a handful of cars coming down. If you're at the tail end of the field, of course, no reason not to. And of course, if you were involved in that incident, you're going to be coming down pit road to see a couple cars. One car, the 19 of Adam Blocker, he's basically missing half that front wing, so he'll be getting that nose replaced for sure during this pit stop. Otherwise, he'll have the mother of all aero push going through turns 1 and 2 when they go back to green flag racing. But if you're at the tail end of the field, no reason you can't come down pit road here, take some tires and fuel to get yourself back out there. And maybe work the strategy a little bit. I maybe would have considered coming down pit road, though, if I was maybe one of those weird cars at the head of the field, because we've seen what it seemed like inconspicuous amounts of fuel advantage will in the past end up being very, very important.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, we had a situation where we had a 15-lap run after the field came on towards pit road, and it proved to be vital later on in the race, especially we end up in a cycle of green flag racing. We're just having a look at Alex Simpson. He did the longest pit stop of everyone there in the Evolution Racing Team car because of the fact he had to get a front wing change. Leading the group out of pit road, that was John Goke, we go on board with right now in the last lap motorsports car. Drivers came on towards pit road: John Goke, Chad Simpson, Vinicius Cortadello, Riley Thompson, Alex Simpson, Martin Miller, Dylan Freckleton, Michael Chin, Liam Quinn, and Adam Blocker and Carlos Washington. So about the back third of our field all came in towards pit road that last time by. Lights, let's have a look, they are out on top of the pace car. So our first restart then here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let's have a look then from the rear of Marco Brazil's car as we go back to green flag racing here in the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Good jump there for Brazil as he's able to dictate the pace, and we're back to green flag racing. Drivers coming in towards 1 once again, but 2, 3, and 4 here, Randy. Looks like they all go off at exactly the same time, and that means it's going to be early advantage for Brazil, especially if Walters, Trainer, and Ellis start battling it out.
And actually, talking about second, third, and fourth, they've done a great job getting around those Team Brazil cars in the early goings. Bradley Walters up a couple of spots. Brandon Treno's up 5. Kevin Ellis Jr. up 6 as Treno wants to make it up 4 spots, as he's going to work his way in towards second and immediately going to keep working his way forward.
Caution. We've got a caution on the speedway right now. And it's Vinicius Cortadello who's involved in that. He's just made himself a pit stop and he's involved in an incident. So our second caution coming up early here at IMS. Well, they were going 3 wide in towards turn 3 and 4. I can see Jonathan. Oh, actually, no, that's one of the Sadie cars that was involved in that. It's a 4-car wreck there. Big moment going on here.
Yeah, this actually started at the head of the field. It was JR Barbarema. It was just a bit of a stack up, and JR didn't, I don't think he really did anything wrong. He had Alex Montanelli and Christian Steele. They forced him to the third line, the outside, and there's no way he can ever make that corner. And the couple of cars in the background just didn't lift. I mean, JR basically was in a situation he had to lift out of that to ever be able to make the corner. Jeff Drake checked up behind him, and David Adams, he got ran over from Chad Simpson. Chad just basically kept his foot in it. I don't think he expected the big checkup from the outside lane, and he just ran over that Sadie car. It's one of the big things about this racetrack. You have to be aware of cars in front of you that maybe, especially in the early goings, will maybe have ill handling, because when they get forced to that upper and third lane, they're going to check up, and you have to be willing and you have to be ready for that when you're deep in this field on these restarts.
Yeah, we're just trying to get ourselves one more quick look if we can. Let's have a look at Jeff Drake's perspective, actually, because this is going to be useful to see what everyone starts checking up here, and then you just see the incidents going on behind him. We'll hopefully get ourselves one more look at this, but Jeff Drake, he did have to check up big time. And this is the thing here, Andy, some drivers who have run this race a number of years, they have that kind of sixth sense to know when there's impending drama coming on.
Yeah, that's really the big thing about running this place, especially on, inside these first 10 laps. You have to know, and Chad Simpson is an experienced enough driver. He should have, there should have been a little bit of spidey sense going on about what's going on at the head of the field. And of course, a lot of drivers, I don't want to be the one who rips on the Brazil guys, because I think the effort and the nationality is great, but a lot of them are not super experienced in the IndyCar. And if you're one of the more experienced drivers, especially if you're Chad Simpson, you need to come into this race knowing that, and you need to know that these early race restarts could be absolute pandemonium because of that. We've seen a couple of drivers be able to really bounce their way forward and take advantage of those drivers and experience, but you have to be able to sit there and know and say, you know what, I'm in a situation, I basically just need to lift out of this and coast into turn 3 here, because this stacking up 3 wide, 3 by 3 is not going to be good for me if one of the inexperienced drivers up top lifts out of this too much and has a big checkup incident just like that.
Yeah, Brandon Traynor, he almost got himself towards a race lead there. The issue for Brandon Traynor was basically the yellow flag came. It almost reminded me a little bit of Paul Tracy. Was it 2002 when Paul Tracy had his race then? The yellow flag pretty much came at exactly the same spot. But Brandon Traynor looks fast. And, well, some people are asking, this Brazilian Alliance, we talked about how fast they were in qualifying, Randy, but their race pace, it might be better the longer we go into a run, but it doesn't look as though they're the cream of the crop, so to say, in terms of race pace right now.
No, they're definitely not. They definitely seemed like they have had really, really good qualifying sets and were able to stack this top split. Because as you look down all of the Brazilian drivers, I don't think there's any that have really been able to hold their position and not lose a bunch of spots. You look at Silvio Sanchez, he's gone from 2nd back to 5th. Alan Morea from 3rd back to 7th. The only one who's not lost a ton of ground has actually been Marco Brazil, and he's come twice close to losing that race lead. Once he lost it and he's able to wrestle it back. The second time he was in the process of losing it, and the timing of the yellow gifted him that race lead. So there's definitely a big question mark with overall what's going on with those Brazil cars and why they were so quick and quality trim, but why they're struggling in the race. Is I think when we eventually get a run, I honestly am getting the impression that the train of Traynor, Walters, and Ellis are going to send Brazil right into the dirty air.
Yeah, drivers out of this event so far: Vinicius Cortadello, Alex Simpson, David Adams, AJ Burton, and Emerson Takashima. Takashima, of course, was part of the first incident that we saw. Cortadello, Simpson. Well, Simpson actually was involved in both of these first 2 incidents. He had himself the requirement to change the front wing in the first pit stop, then got a lot of damage in the second one. So the Evolution Racing Team car is out of this event. Anyway, we are 10 laps into this event. 2 cautions so far. We have had races in the past, Randy, that have only had 3 cautions. But we're going to have a very long green flag run. I say that, we do often end up with very long green flag runs in this event once a field settles down.
Yeah, it's one of the things that always happens here at Indy. Sometimes the nerves can be a little bit intense. You stack up some yellows early, and then you rip a 160-lap green flag run. I've seen it happen plenty of times in these various IndyCar series, especially if the field gets thinned out a little bit. The guys will be more likely to get single filed out. But let's see what happens here as we come here to our second restart of the day.
Here we are then. Pace car just entering turn number 4 on track. That'll put the field back in the command of Marco Brazil. He went kind of halfway down the opportunity he had to restart this race last time by. He's waiting after the commit cone once again. He's going to wait a long time this time by. Now he gets going. Now we're back to green flag racing. But as a consequence of that, it does look as though that Traynor et al. Are pretty close to him compared to previously. Behind, they're already going 3 wide in towards turn 1. I think that should have been Gogo going 3 wide, heading in towards 1. Gogo on the inside line, able to make a pass.
He's got the Rainbow Warrior colored car down there on the inside, and he's trying to make it 2 cars in 2 corners. Is John Goke, and he's just about going to be able to get it done. That's John Downing and Christian Steele, but still, he's not going to let himself get outfought. He's going to look towards the inside in towards turn 3, but that's not going to remain an open gap. As at the head of the field, things are still getting changed away, and it's Kevin Ellis Jr. and Bradley Walters now the top 2. And actually, take that back, Traynor is leading this race.
Yeah, so Brandon Traynor has got himself, what's happened to Marco Brazil? He's fallen all the way down to 4th place outside of our screens, Randy.
So not going well for Marco Brazil. We have been talking about the Brazil cars that qualified so well that have now just slowly started losing spots. A couple of them caught up in incidents, and now they're starting to get buried in this field. As Traynor looks like he's going to lose this race lead. It's going to be Bradley Walters who jumps out into the race lead.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the replay for Marco Brazil, and he just lost all forms of momentum out of turn number 2. That allowed Traynor to go past, and and that's what also allowed Walters to go past. Brazil was just held to the outside line, so that's why he lost positions. He was just hung out to dry on the outside line. It's now Trainer and Walters going at it for P1, P2. Brazil's back into it right now, but Kevin Ellis Jr. still makes it a 4-car battle.
Maria.
Oh, caution number 3 about to come out, or will it?
We're still green, and actually no one gets caught up in this. The 21 car of Alan Maria, he managed to hold on to it, and he has it down on the apron. It looks like he's going to try to limp it back to pit road. He should probably stop and just take the tow, and that looks like it's exactly what he's doing. Shout outs to the 21 car for being able to hold on to that and not bring us out a caution here. Michele Constantini, he's still fighting with Marco Aurelio Brazil as your top 4 really have a big breakaway as Trano wants to lead once again.
Yeah, Maria just pushed up into the gray. He just got himself so aero tight, shall we say, through turn number 1. That forced him into the wall, and again, yeah, he did the right thing, pulled it off to the track, and as a consequence of that, we are still green here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is Trano from Walters, from Ellis Jr., from Constantini. Brazil has fallen down into 5th place, but Constantini's had a fantastic start to this race, just like Brandon Trano.
Yeah, he definitely has. And look at the top 3rd and 4th, a pair of Evolution Racing Team / Apex drivers. They are sister teams, so we will refer to them as sort of, but they are running the yellow and black ERT colors here today in that 3rd and 4th spot. When I talked to Michele after the recent Classic IndyCar Series race, he seemed very, very skeptical about what sort of pace that team was going to have. And now they find themselves in the early goings running 3rd and 4th here as they work their way up towards the field. Race lead coming under contention once again, and I think it's just going to be like this pretty much all race, Will. We're just going to see a race lead or two, a lead change or two every single trip around the racetrack.
Yeah, and it seems to be that Brandon Trano and Bradley Walters are happy to give each other enough room as well. As we see Brandon Trano getting the run out of corner number 4, still remaining in 5th gear at that point. Seems to be that Brandon Trano has really got those gear stacks working well in that broken aero car as he does lead the lap up the line. Remember what we talked about in the pre-race show about having a car that works well out of turn number 4? I think that's exactly what Brandon Trano has right now, as Henry Bennett, by the way, has just got himself past Silvio Roberto Sanchez in the Brazil Alliance car. Sanchez looking close as they come back, but no, he's just going to lift out of it, and now he's going to have Jonathan Goat go down to the inside of him into 3.
What a start to this race for Jonathan Goak in the 10. We are 16 laps into this, getting ready to start lap 17, and Jonathan Goak has moved himself up 20 positions, I believe, maybe more, as I wait for my timing to update. That 10 car, Will, is not messing around today.
He's not, and as I say, he has had so many laps led here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He did win the Indy Elite Indy 500 as well, so he's got a number of laps in race pace under his belt as we came into the month of May, Randy, but that last lap motorsports car looks fast, but also, more importantly, looks good in traffic.
Yeah, that's the thing, and honestly, I'm not just the car looks good, Will. John looks good. John is one of those drivers that has traditionally been very, very aggressive in these Indy cars. He's not one that's afraid to show a nose, and which is in sometimes a good thing, but other time a bad thing. But I think John, he's picked his spots thus far getting through this traffic. He's gotten through people and really gotten aggressive when he needed to, but he's not, I think, put himself in unnecessary risk situations. So I think this 10 car is looking very, very good, not only on the setup, but with the driver as well. That 10 car looks just hooked up. The one of Christian Challoner is looking good as well. He's up 6 spots from 15th into 9th.
Yeah, I was going to say that Team Talent number 1 car, Huxenveld sponsored car, looks very strong. And again, it looks like that car is balanced around the racetrack. It is worth noting, of course, Randy, that we're now 18 laps into a run. We've had 2 cycles of 3 cycles even on these tyres through to the safety car periods and then the restart. What that will mean is that these drivers are really having to try and figure out these in-car tools, the weight jackets that they can adjust, as well as the 2 anti-roll bars that they can adjust. And some of these teams that have done lots of practices in traffic, in restart situations, are those that's going to be benefiting the most right now.
Yeah, you're going to be working that front and rear anti-roll bar and the weight jacker, as well as John Downing is going to make a 3-wide pass in towards turn 3, or will he? Silvio Sanchez is going to fight through on the outside of turn 3 and turn 4, but he can't keep it hooked up out there, and now Silvio is going to get freight trained down the front straightaway.
He is, as out front. Bradley Waters, no, can't do anything in towards turn number 1. But yeah, let's go back to Sanchez, shall we? As he's had himself drawn down and go past him. But Brendan Lichtenberg is right behind him. Brendan Lichtenberg, he's been a force to be reckoned with at the Speedway before as well. As we're on board of him as they exit turn number 2. And now Lichtenberg's going to go down to the inside of the number 27 machine of Silvio Roberto Sanchez, but just can't make the move quite into turn number 3.
I just can't quite get that moved on. We got a car on the wall through turn number 3. Huge pile up through the short chute. Chad Simpson's involved in this in the 14, but we stay green again.
Yeah, Jeff Drake is involved as well. He's just been able to get that car off of the racing line. Let's get ourselves another look at that one, though, for you, as he's bumping that car on towards pit road, but he's able to do it. Jake, oh, Jeff Drake just hits the wall. There's a little bit of contact there down in towards turn number 3. You're right. I believe Chad Simpson, yeah, he was involved in that one as well. Let's get ourselves another look on board of Chad Simpson, because this is going to give us the best view here, around in towards turn number 3. Chad Simpson comes ahead. You see Jeff Drake just going to push up there onto the high side and make contact with another driver, and then Chad Simpson goes for a ride. I think Simpson's car is okay to continue. I think he's got some damage to that car, but he's still circulating on track.
Yeah, there's going to be some damage to that car. The problem he has, Will, is that the fact that it stayed green like this, he's got a lot of damage. I think the car is repairable, as you said, but under green flag conditions, he's just going to lose so much time. It's just going to be horrible for him in his race, and that's pretty much night done.
Yeah, on board with Sanchez. Right now he's got Rick Music behind him. We talk about drivers who make Indianapolis their home. Rick Music is another one of those in the Saudi Sim Autosport car. He's taken part in multiple iRacing Indianapolis 500s. Very strong driver, but he's one right now. He's working in that mid-pack, but I don't necessarily think that Music is just trying to force his way through the same way we've seen other drivers do so. As I say that, though, he has the inside line through turn number 1, but can't make the move over Sanchez as they come into 2.
Yeah, just can't quite get that move done in these early goings, and this is what we're going to start seeing. Some cars have really found their way towards the mid-pack or towards the tail end of the field, and that 27 car, Sanchez, is one of them. Started second in this race. We've been talking about cars working the way up from the back of the field towards the front. 27 car, Silvio Sanchez, started on the outside of the front row, and he currently finds himself buried in towards the tail end of this field. So the 27 of Sanchez doing everything he can to hold on. Now I believe it's the 22 of Leon Quinn who's going to be lined up, and he'll be making a move on the Brazil driver in towards turn 1. But no, Sanchez is going to be brave along the outside of turn 1. Is able to hold on there.
Yeah, from one Saudi car to another. This is a Saudi Sim Autosports car. Bradley Walters just relinquishing the race lead to Brandon Trainer once again into turn number 3. So we're getting ourselves a little bit more into a rhythm right now. Under normal conditions, Randy, about 33 laps in terms of a fuel run. These leaders, they're most likely now to be able to do about 37 laps on this first run because of the 2 safety car periods. However, the drivers that came in at the end of the first portion, they are going to be able to go to about lap number 42 under my estimation.
And of course, some of the cautions may have helped them as well if they actually managed to get a yellow. So this first stint is going to be stretched out just a little bit for those guys. Maybe see pit stops somewhere around lap 37, lap 38. But you are right. That little extra bit could make all the difference, and we've seen that in the past. Matter of fact, I believe it was Bradley Walters and maybe John Downing, who I think was the car who maybe it was an Indy Elite Series race that we broadcast. Ended up, the difference maker was on one of the cautions. They came down pit road and they basically dominated the entire race because of that, because that was the last caution we got. And they went basically 170 laps, I think, something to the end of the race. Those little things can add up. So expect for that to potentially play a part in this if this race goes green and things have really single filed out up and down the entire field.
Just going back to have a look at Jonathan Goke right now. He has had Christian Challoner get past him recently. Goke right now running in 9th place, 3.6 seconds behind your race leader, which is Brandon Traino. And this field has settled down. What we have seen, I think, Randy, is some drivers who not necessarily struggled in qualifying, but didn't necessarily get the perfect run. They've been able to work themselves for experience more than anything else through the field early on. I think a lot of nerves has got into drivers at the start of this race, but also what we have seen, as ever here at Indy, qualifying the top 33 is important. Pole position isn't.
Yeah, it really isn't. Qualifying is just part of the story here, and that's gonna, I think, you know, just through this first 25 laps, that's been the talking point, is the overratedness to a certain extent of qualifying from that Team Brazil group. Yeah, you need to get yourself in the top 33, but if you can't keep yourself at the head of the field, you know, what good is it, as everyone, especially the flag waver of that group, Marco Brazil, down 5 spots before even our first round of pit stops. It's not gone well for that Brazil group whatsoever. But now we're getting into this long run rhythm of the race we're likely going to be seeing here. And it seems like it's going to be a race of a lot of lead changes at the head of the field between the likes of Trado, Walters, and Ellis.
Yeah, having a look on board with Henry Bennett in the Power Slide Motorsports car. He's closing up to the rear of Marco Brazil. He's within 4 tenths of a second, so he is getting that draft. One thing that's really I often love, and I really do like the fact that iRacing put it on the IPI over the last couple of years, is the fact we do get to see not only the dash, but what gears they're running in. And it seems to be a lot of these drivers are content to just run it in 5th unless they're right up behind the rear of someone, using 6th as kind of quote-unquote overtake gear. Also, one thing I do like, Randy, is the fact that it's Power Slide Motorsports, not absolute Power Slide for a broken Rebel or something motorsports car.
Yeah, something Afterburn, something Last Lap Motorsport. Yeah, something Coanda, something Red Bull rate. Yeah, thankfully it just Power Slide here today, and they didn't have to break our graphics with every company trademark logo that exists.
Yeah, as we go back and have a look at giving another tune in, the number 2 Evolution Racing team car. Running in 3rd place right now is actually Adam Blocker. He's having a battle going on right now. This is with Simon Bryant. I think Blocker has lost position. John Downing, Christian Steele, they're battling at it as well. Haven't talked at all about Christian Steele in this number 4 Apex Racing Broken Aero car as they head themselves down towards turn 3 and 4. Steele is a driver who you're not going to talk about really for the first 150 laps, Randy. We're going to blink, and then he's going to be in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, and Steele, he's worked his way slowly forward. Now he finds himself 12th. Car behind him that we haven't talked about yet, Will, the 17 car, Brendan Lichtenberg, qualified for this race in the 31st position and now finds himself 13th. So he's on the Goke train of moving his way up forward here. And as well as the 2 Sadie cars, we've been talking about the 23 of Bradley Walters. Look at his teammates. John Downing has quietly moved his way up through the field, and Simon Bryant has been slowly moving his way up through the field as he's now going to actually work on the 10 of Jonathan Goke in towards turn 3. Adam Blocker behind, not going to follow the Sadie car through as Goke is able to hook up that top side really well, and he should be able to hold on to that spot for now.
Yeah, it looks like he's got that move scored complete. Actually, no, they're going to stay side by side as they head themselves down towards turns number 1 and 2. Once again, 3 wide. Here we go in towards turn number 1. Goke's on the outside line, and it looks as though that Block is going to be able to take the inside, get 2 positions there. Goke's going to be running in the 2nd of that train, Simon Bryant in 3rd. And I did just see on my timing screens that Marco Brazil has had more issues. I think he's had a lot more issues. Marco Brazil is on pit road right now here, Andy.
Issues there for Marco for sure, and that's not what you would have wanted whatsoever. This actually may be a scheduled pit stop, Will. It's possible he may have fueled that car a little bit light for the start of the race, but 32 laps is definitely a little bit short. It's in the window, but with a couple of cautions, you should be looking to go 36, 37 easy. So not surprised, not expecting Marco to come down early like this, but we've only seen him go backwards, Will. He may have wanted to come down the early part of the window, maybe struggling with that race car a little bit, make some changes to the aero and tire pressures of that race car as he's now down basically an entire lap, as that's the leader of Brandon Trano literally right behind him.
Yeah, so having a look at Kevin Williams Jr. once again in that 3rd spot on track. We have got some lap cars coming into play, although that's come on towards pit road. Now that's Brandon Trano's on pit road. Yes, you're right. Brandon Trano's on pit road. We're going to get more drivers on pit road as well. We see one other driver coming in. That is a number 26 and 28 car on the lane, but we're going to ride on board with Brandon Trano as he comes in to his pit stall. So it doesn't seem to be as though these drivers have done much fuel saving. I did see some people saying that if you're going to run full tilt the entire way, you're more close to 30 laps than 33, Randy. But Broken Arrow, number 3 car, out and away. Pit stop time for him is going to be 9 seconds.
Yeah, so kind of expected pit stops and pit stop times here. Bradley Walters comes on towards pit road. I believe that's Kevin Ellis Jr. and Michele Constantini, who are going to follow him onto the racetrack, as well as another car in the background, Chris Stouffer. So they all get onto pit road clean, and your first cycle of green flag stops now cycling through. And Henry Bennett in the eighth is the car was cycled into the race lead.
Yep, we've had our first speeding penalty of the day. That was Simon Bryant in the Saudi Sim Auto Sports car number 28 machine, came onto pit road too hot, Randy. 15-second penalty, and that puts him all the way down as the last car now on the lead lap.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you don't want to happen here. We talked about it, Will, the importance of getting onto and off of pit road, and that's an absolute killer. I didn't even talk about penalties, but if you speed just a little bit, especially early here, you're going to have a big climb for the rest of the day.
More drivers coming on towards pit road as we speak. Rick Music's on the lane. We've got John Downing on the lane as well. So the Saudi Sim Auto Sports cars look as though they are all coming to make their journey into the pits. Of course, what we're going to end up now with, Randy, is a group of about 10 drivers who pitted under that first caution, who will now cycle through to the race lead for about the next 7 to 8 laps.
Yeah, so we'll be seeing those cars out in front for a while, as actually Bennett and Challoner are going to come down in towards pit road. Adam Blocker in the 19 is now going to inherit the race lead, as Brendan Lichtenberg is going to hit the pits here as well. So 3 cars on towards pit road here at lap 36.
Yep, so here comes Christian Challoner then as he comes on to the lane and just going to dive in towards his pit box now. He's got himself Henry Bennett just ahead of him, but Henry Bennett's about 5. Oh, Christian Challoner, he overshoots his pit stall dramatically, Randy. That's going to cost him about 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there for the one car. He's not going to be too happy about that. Going to lose a bit of time. He should just fill this car up all the way, and that's pretty much what he does. So he'll lose some spots here, Will, but it's not the end of the world just overshooting the box. He should be mostly okay here and able to rebound. Oh, the 10 car, Jonathan Goke as well. Very tight to the wall coming off of turn 4. So 10 car may be struggling with a bit of push here late.
This is kind of an extension of what I was talking about earlier, Randy, because with 3 heat cycles now on these tyres with the 2 safety car periods, what you're going to end up with is a balance of a race car at the end of a green flag run, which is very different from what you might expect. Jonathan Goke, this is lap traffic he's just getting past right now. Lap traffic will become a factor in this green flag run, but it's worth noting that a lot of drivers right now might be at the limit of what they can do with their in-car adjustments.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Of course, you always talk about the weight jacker and the front and rear anti-roll bars, but you're always going to have a limit. Even if that car feels tight, you don't want to go too crazy on that weight jacker trying to loosen the car up, because suddenly if you go too far, you're in a situation where you can potentially spin around. So, the inverse is potentially true as well. If you're fighting loose, you can't over-tighten that car based on what it can do to the tires. So for these guys in the early goings, maybe some struggling here, as we got an interesting little gaggle of cars with your race leaders, the likes of Challoner, Music, and Downing, all around Adam Blocker, who's currently the one at the head of this field.
Liam Quinn, I thought he was going to be long in his pit stop. He sped on pit road as well. We could see that car on the onboard, Randy, struggling to get down to the 55 miles an hour. So that's our second driver that we're aware of now who's had himself incident on pit road. Is John Goke heads himself on towards pit road in the number 10 car. He's also joined by the number 30 machine. That is Dylan Freckleton making a pit stop.
Jonathan Goke also on pit road. So most of your cars now have pretty much cycled their way through. Just a couple of them, the likes of Blocker, Thompson, Montanelli, that we need to see come down pit road, Will. And it's been a crazy 40 laps. We've gone from intense nose-to-tail action up and down the field to this pit stop sequence. Seems to have really strung out the entire field of cars, as Blocker is now going to be the next one to peel on towards the lane, and another car following him in behind, the 11 of Riley Thompson.
So Adam Blocker then leads the lap here in the 2019 iRacing Indianapolis 500. Here comes the Power Slide Motorsports car of Adam Blocker, just going to make a pit stop. As just going to keep an eye out from the rear of him. It looks like he was nicely on towards pit road behind. Number 14 machine coming to make a scheduled service as well. As out and away, actually that's Riley Thompson in the 11th car that was coming on towards pit road. 9.8 second pit stop there for Adam Blocker, out and away. And then we've also got ourselves, Riley Thompson just coming out of pit road in the TDR with Team Talent car. 35.2 seconds end to end, Randy.
So yeah, that's pretty much, I think, the bulk of the field that is pit. I think Alex Montanelli still owes us a pit stop. Michael Chin is going to peel down on towards pit road. That'll give Junior Barbarema that third spot, second spot back. And then likes of Riley Thompson. It's so difficult following this because there's this pit stop sequence, Will, is about 10 laps long.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, typically you see the whole field down with about the same 2 to 3 lap window. Now we've seen everyone come down. You know, it's been about 10 laps since the first car started it, which was, if I remember right, Marco Brazil. So now there's been 10 laps has gone by, and it's difficult trying to sort out who exactly is where and who our race leader is actually going to cycle out and be once everyone is done with their pit stops.
Michael Chin overshot his pit stop, 9.8 second pit stop for him. Out on track though, Brandon Traynor versus Kevin Ellis Jr. And Brandon Traynor is going to sweep himself past the Evolution Racing team car there of, the Evolution Racing team car of Kevin Ellis Jr. even. And we're on board from the rear of Brandon Traynor right now. Ellis Jr. is going to get a run back as they head themselves down in towards turn number 1. I was actually about to say, Randy, it's weird to see Evolution Racing team colours and not Apex Racing team colours here. Of course, we talked about the merger between Apex Racing UK and Evolution Racing team, and it looks as though that they decided to use the yellow and black paint instead of the blue and white.
I've always been a fan of the blue and white from Apex, but I will say my favorite colors are yellow and black. So, definitely for me, a bit of I love seeing those colors. I will say I also love the colors of that Broken Arrow IR18. They've really worked on their paint schemes. That Broken Arrow car looks fantastic as well, but now it seems like Traynor and Ellis at the head of the field, they seem keen to just basically swap this lead back and forth. And I don't mean to be anticlimactic, because of course it is the race lead for the iRacing Indianapolis 500, but for these two, for Traynor and Ellis, they are two of the more experienced guys around this racetrack. This isn't going to be that intense for them now. It's just the two of them paired up, and they're basically going to be more than happy to just leapfrog like this, really for the next 156 laps, with the likes of Stouffer and Constantini a couple seconds back, like pretty much doing the same thing.
Yeah, as Stouffer has actually just got himself past Michele Constantini in the Apex Racing team car as they work themselves through turn number 4. Once again on towards the front straightaway, they'll come again. Let's check in. Actually, we're not going to look at the race lead. Kevin Ellis Jr. Brandon Traynor. They're just doing their whip swap once again. But Christian Steele versus Adam Blocker. Apex Racing Broken Arrow car then of Christian Steele versus Adam Blocker. He's running in the Power Slide Motorsports car. They looked very close coming past the start-finish line, but Christian Steele just lost momentum there through turn number 1. And to go back to those kind of in-car tools there, Randy, after you have a run where you're basically increasing the weight jacket or changing the anti-roll bars, getting used to handling the race car once it's kind of reset can be difficult for some drivers.
Yeah, it definitely can. With it, you come down on towards pit road, towards the tail end of a run where the car is going to be light on fuel, the tires are going to be burned up a little bit. Maybe you were fighting with something. You come down pit road, maybe you make a pit stop adjustment. Maybe you put a little bit of front wing in the car. Maybe even change the rear wing, which is something you have to play with. Then you get out there on the racetrack, and suddenly you have new tires, a heavy car, and you're trying to adapt to those changes that you've made, trying to pick up where you left off and figure out what exactly you need for those in-car tools can be a little bit difficult and can be a little bit off-putting. It's something I know I have struggled with in the past, and I'm sure everyone who's ever driven this Indy car has likely struggled with as well.
John Koch, last lap motorsports car, just getting himself past Brendan Lichtenberg in the Broken Arrow machine. Well, I will say there's been a bit of a multi-year rivalry, shall we say, between last lap motorsports and Broken Arrow. Jonathan Goke as well, including some of their drivers. But you can see on the racetrack, they're running fairly right now. And that's the whole thing, Randy. You have these rivalries that go on for 11 months and 3 weeks of the year, but you kind of have to put them to one side once you get to this race, because otherwise one or both of you will end up in the wall, and all the hard work that you spend getting ready for Indy will just go out the window. So you have to, in some ways, put the egos, put the disagreements to one side, because at some point you might actually have to work with someone who's on a team that you're not quite friends with.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's almost like in a NASCAR event, like you see at the likes of Talladega and Daytona. I mean, the Daytona 500 this year, because the Fords were so strong, we saw the Hendricks and the Gibbs cars, Toyotas and Chevrolets. We saw them team up to try to really take it to the Fords, and well, ended up panning out as Denny Hamlin ended up winning the Indianapolis 500. But you know, it's the same situation here. It may not be someone you typically work with. You know, you may not even have a mode of communication to that driver or for that driver, but you have to do, you know, a little bit of nonverbal communication and have a bit of understanding and respect for whoever you're dealing with. And we're seeing that with the top 4 cars, Trano and Ellis. Both of those two, you know, neither of them have been over of those fights. None of those drivers have been over aggressive. They're just sitting there logging laps. You're seeing that as well with the likes of Blocker and Christian Steele, who's sitting 6th and 7th. The only fight that's even really close, that's more than about 2 cars strong, is coming here from about 8th place on the racetrack. You have the likes of Go, Klickenberg, Riley Thompson, and Christian Chandler. They're all lined up here from about 8th to just outside your top 10, as Brendan actually wants to make a move on that number 10 car of Go.
Top 8 then along the bottom of your screen. It's Trano and Kevin Ellis Jr. with a 3.5 second advantage over Michele Constantini and Christopher in a battle. Marco Brazil in 5th place, 7 seconds almost now behind the race leader. Don't forget, live timing and scoring is now available. Just visit racebot.tv/time, and also use the hashtag iRacing Indy 500. Let us know what you're doing this weekend. Have you taken part in an iRacing Indy 500? If so, how did you do? Because of course, Randy, we've not only got this top split, we've got 4 races over the course, 4 sets of races over the course of the weekend, and we've got over 1,000 drivers who are taking part in their own Indy 500 experience here on iRacing.
Yeah, you're right. With that many people taking part, it's always great to have and great to see here. With so many people, it's one of the bigger events that we have. We've had similar numbers with some of the endurance events, but of course the Brickyard holds a special place here in our heart.
Yeah, on board with Rick Music. Actually, I thought there was going to be a close gap between himself and John Downing. There isn't right now. That one's eked itself out. But Brandon Lichtenberg and John Goke still going at it. Goke's got himself past Lichtenberg for the time being. I think what they're trying to do right now is get themselves a little bit of clean air over Riley Thompson, who runs in the 10th position in the number 11 Team DR with Team Talent Car. And that's the reason why you see Goke and Lichtenberg driving right up and making that quick and easy pass, Randy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Really, the looking for fresh air and the searching for fresh air is always fun to watch. As you'll see these cars, you'll be like, oh my lord, he missed the apex because he's got half a tire, or maybe half a car up the racetrack. And really, you're just searching for clean air and just trying to make that thing turn. And I actually think, Will, a lot of these Team Brazil cars are actually running really trimmed out, because when we saw them buried in that lap traffic, they weren't just showing half a nose like you would typically expect, or maybe half a car length or car width. We saw a lot of times those cars were a full lane up through the corner if they were in traffic trying to get that dirty air. So I think those Brazil cars, the like of Marco, who's really the only one who's been able to hold station, be competitive inside of the top 10, I think a lot of them are running trimmed out, which is I think why we're seeing them struggling once they've got shuffle back in the traffic, because they just didn't seem to have any pace in the dirty air whatsoever.
Yeah, I was looking at the lap times between Christopher, who of course is running in a draft with Michele Constantini, and Marco Brazil. And Brazil is kind of trading laps right now with Stouffer and that number 20 car. I'm just going to have a look as well at the gaps between Kevin Ellis Jr. and Michele Constantini. It is worth noting that last time by, they were 3/10 of a second faster, Constantini and Stouffer, compared to Trano and Kevin Ellis Jr. So the gap is now below 3 seconds from second place to third. And of course, it's a long race here, Randy. 3 seconds. You have to do it 10th after 10th, but you can close that up before the next time we end up on pit road.
Yeah, you can. I mean, we've already seen drivers make big mistakes on towards pit road as we're actually, getting ready to come towards the end of this second sequence of long green flag running once again. Lap about 64 is probably about what we're looking at, maybe even a little bit earlier for Marco, because remember, we saw him come down on 32 even with the yellows. So it may be as soon as lap 59, lap 60, lap 61 for that 12 car might be the sort of window we're looking at. And we've seen a handful of people make mistakes. And this is in some ways, Will, the scary part of the race. This sort of middle, when the race gets like this, it seems like we're single filed out and we're very likely to have a long, long green flag run. You tend to, as a driver, just sort of zone out a little bit, and just sort of get into a rhythm and almost get into a state of, I don't want to say meditation or something like that, but you really do just sort of zone out to a certain extent. And this can be really, really easy to make a mistake entering pit road at this time, because you get in a rhythm and then that pit stop sequence upsets that rhythm. But because you've not been on the edge of your seat, for the entirety of this run, you suddenly try to come down on towards pit road, and it's like an adrenaline spike as your race leader deals with a little bit of lap traffic. That's Chad Simpson in the 14 at the head of the field.
Yeah, it is. Just to let you know, Randy, Denny Hamlin has never won the Indy 500. He has,
I said Daytona 500, didn't I?
No, you said Indy 500. You blew it.
Oh, okay.
You blew it.
That's okay. Congratulations to Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs.
Yes. Brandon Trainer, we're on board with him right now. And this is going to be a bit of a test here now for Brandon Trainer, because he's been setting those in-car tools to work specifically for running in clean air when he's been doing so. But now he's got that situation that he's coming up behind not only lap traffic, but pretty slow traffic compared to what he's used to, Randy. And now he's got to try and navigate himself. And he didn't do much there through turns number 1 and 2.
No, he didn't. So
oh my word, actually, whoa, I'm going to say that. The gap between second and third place has come down dramatically. I want to put this graphic up right now. It's come down by about 2 seconds in as many laps.
Well, I was just talking about the Team Brazil cars that maybe were trimmed out, Will, and maybe we're seeing the same thing from the likes of Treno and Kevin Ellis Jr. They get to the tail end of this 14 car of Chad Simpson and the likes of Carlos Washington. They start to get a train of lap cars, and they seem to just stall out. And look at that last lap around the racetrack as well. 0.6 of a second quicker with Michele Constantini over the likes of Treno and Kevin Ellis Jr. So maybe a little bit trimmed out are these cars at the head of the field running in first and second. And maybe Constantini and Stouffer can make something of this win if they can get there. So difficulties or maybe some hardcore fuel saving for the likes of Treno and Ellis in your top two.
Yeah, as just having a look, that gap we see there is Constantini. We're on board with him right now as they exit turn number 4. This is a perfect opportunity for Constantini and Stouffer, but this could also start bringing Marco Brazil back into play as well. So a sense of urgency, I think, will be starting to kick in both the Broken Arrow and the Evolution Racing Team car camps. And I would say Ellis Jr. might be thinking right now, okay, if Treno can't get past, we need to start moving forward quickly. But he's about 0.3 of a second behind Treno right now. Treno's starting now to look down to the inside of the lap traffic. He will get past in turn number 3, and now the issue's all going to be on Kevin Ellis Jr. Ellis Jr. should get a good run out of turn number 4, but I don't think he's close enough, Randy, to make the passing towards 1.
Yeah, so, and the thing is, though, that you still have a little bit of dirty air out in front of your leader of Carlos Washington. I am a little bit suspicious, Will. I don't know if this is purely setup. I think we might be seeing a little bit of fuel saving here coming in from the 3 and actually everyone in this top 4, because if you look at the 9 of Michele Constantini, he's nowhere close enough for the dirty air to be really making that much of an effect on that number 9 Evolution Racing Team car, but the pace is stalled out. So I think everyone in this top 4 has pretty much all at the same time shifted into more of a fuel save strategy, working through this lap traffic, and have really dialed the pace back just that extra little bit, as the likes of Adam Blocker and actually we missed this. I think Marco Brazil, he's already come down pit road for his next pit stop sequence. So here at lap 60, pit stop sequence, it seems like the first cycle just ended, but the second one is out there. It's Treno. He clips the curb through turn 1, and he gets away with that one as he holds onto it through the short chute. Close moment there for the Broken Arrow car.
Replay coming up then for Broken Arrow. Let's have a look in towards 1. He's very wide into that car, the back end just starts to step out, but that actually more, Randy, is he completely missed the apex in towards turn number 1. A bit of an unforced error for Brandon Treno in the number 3 machine, but Ellis Jr. started to fall back even further into the clutches.
Carlos Washington ahead of your leaders in the wall.
This is where things can start getting really interesting, because Washington now, he basically has to keep going, otherwise there's going to be a caution. He's slow on the racetrack. Having a look then through turn number 1, he's able to keep going. Let's get a replay up though, Randy, because that could have been catastrophic.
I think he just got tied off of turn 4. Actually, no, I take that back. He got loose at the apex. He actually clipped the curb. He did exactly what Brandon Trano did, except he didn't get away with it. Just clipped the curb at the apex of 4. That car got loose and it just spat him into the outside wall, and that was well held by him and drivers behind to not turn this into a bigger incident. So Carlos is likely going to limp this around and then hit pit road. But we just saw Trano clip the curb and talk about how catastrophic that could have been. What happened to Carlos easily could have happened to your race leader.
Christopher just making a pit stop, 8.5 seconds back out onto track. He will come. I think that's a good move by Stouffer, actually, because he didn't seem to be able to make any headway once he caught up to the rear of Ellis Jr., etc. So for Stouffer, he was also starting to lose a little bit of time to Michele Constantini. So he's out in 21st position, but more importantly, I would argue for Stouffer, he's got himself some clean air right now, so he can get back into a rhythm, and all these other cars should be on pit road in the next 2 to 3 laps, I'm starting to think.
Well, you said that, but our pit stop sequence lasted about 10 laps the first cycle we had, so that could, easily extend out to 20. Those cars that came down towards the tail end of lap 38, lap 39, lap 40, they're not thinking of coming down towards pit road until lap 68, 69, maybe even as late as lap 71, 72. So we still have about 5 laps, I'd say, of this pit stop sequence, taking the entire field into account.
On board with Christian Steele as he's going to complete his pit stop, and he comes out and away. Total time for him. On the lane, we're going to have to get it for this one because our timing and scoring just messed up a little bit. Lane time 36 from the start of pit road till the end. He'll come back out onto track as here comes Trano, Ellis Jr. and Constantini all on towards pit road this time by.
Yep, so expected pit stops for all of them. Blocker and Lichtenberg will inherit the race lead with Thompson in 3rd. And of those 3 cars that peel off on towards pit road, I don't see any issues there for those top 3. They all are quietly in the box, should be able to get themselves cycled out once again. Cars drop off the jacks, and they will all roll out together back out onto the racing circuit.
Nothing gained and nothing lost there between the drivers. As Trano will lose 7 positions. But, of course, that's because of the fact that a lot of the drivers ahead of him have all yet to have come on pit road. So we did talk about this, Randy. Often we have it in the iRacing Indy 500. A couple of cautions early, then long green flag runs, and it comes back to what I said earlier on in our pre-race show. It's that every stage of the practice is proving to be important here. We saw last time around about 3 drivers speed on pit road. That's putting them well out of positions. And whilst it might be easy, if there's a caution to bring things together, the longer the race will go on, the longer you're trailing 15, 20 seconds back because of making an incident, it's going to hurt not only your momentum, but also the psyche in you a little bit as well.
Yeah, it definitely can, as you just sit there and just think, man, I am so far down this order. I am so far behind what it is I have to do. It cannot be a great thing of, it doesn't put you in a great place mentally of getting put on the back foot early. That's why a lot of times in the real race, when you hear the likes of the spotter radio and the crew chief radio, think about to Alexander Rossi's race win, and the likes of you hear some of the radio messages coming from the likes of Brian Herta and how reassuring he was of their situation. Most notably, your crew chief better be reassuring when he's telling you to clutch down the back straightaway under green at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But regardless, that it's important to keep your driver in a good mental state, because if you get almost down on yourself or get frustrated, when you eventually get that reset, when you get a caution, you get the possibility to go out there and really fight and potentially make something of it for a race win. You want to be at your most confident, and it can be difficult from an emotional level to go from a state of frustration to a state of, oh, now I need to be fully committed to myself. I need to be fully I need to fully believe in myself to be able to fight for whatever position it may be.
I'm going to let you off there because of the fact we have been talking non-stop now for 1 hour and 4 minutes.
What did I say?
Nothing at all. We've got more people on pit road. Rick Music, actually, in the Saudi Sim Autosport car. Coming out of pit road, 9.8 seconds out and away he will come. And, Music's having a bit of a quiet race, and I said he kind of would do here, Randy. I think he's just kind of ticking the laps on. He knows you're not going to win the race in the first 150 laps. It's about survival, but also, again, just keeping the car clean, keeping the rhythm going. And these teams who have the opportunity...
Is there a joke here about Rick Music keeping rhythm?
No. I didn't intend to anyway. I was going to say that we talk about the in-car tools quite heavily, but these teams do have the opportunity to do some aero changes when they come on towards pit road, and tyre pressure changes as well. Now, this track is going to get slicker and slicker, especially offline, the longer we go into this race, Randy. So the outside line will become harder and harder to run, and that will start going into the millimeter hours as well. The fact that they don't necessarily want to be fighting for every position, but they do want to start moving up the field slowly.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what you want, especially when you're stuck in this sort of rhythm of the race where everyone's sprung out. You want to be in a situation where, okay, that car's 3 seconds up the field. I need to find somehow, some way over this next stint to bring this gap down. And how you're going to do that. I wouldn't be surprised, Will, if there's some cars trimming the car out just a little bit because this race has gotten so single filed out. If you're someone who's, I don't want to say buried in the field, but if you're, say, running 6th, 7th, 8th out there on the racetrack and the cars ahead of you are 6 seconds up the road, you're probably not going to be too worried about the dirty air, and you may dial some front wing out of that car. You could dial the rear wing out as well, but of course that takes a little bit longer to adjust. So it's likely going to be mostly front wing adjustments, and you will have quite a bit of push if you happen to get some dirty air when you get back out there and running. So it's a risk, but I think it's a measured one, and I think with this state of the race, I don't think there's any reason not to trim the car out really in these early goings.
Yeah, as we just see Jonathan Goke coming out of pit road, and just ahead of him is Adam Blocker. He's got a 9.2 second pit stop. Jonathan Goke, actually, that was a pretty fast stop. We don't get this pit stop time, but it's in 35.1 on the lane. That's actually one of the fastest times. I'm having a look through, actually, Randy. That is the second fastest time that we've had of anyone on that last sequence as Riley Thompson is onto the lane.
Yeah, so a good pit stop there for the 10 car of Jonathan Goke as Thompson's on towards pit road. He'll cycle back out. That'll give Alex Moncinelli the race lead here. As the 31 of Michael Chin, he will also cycle on towards pit road. So everyone pretty much coming towards the end of the sequence here. This is going to be Ellis and Treno, who in just a couple of moments should be cycling back to the race lead. I think the 24 should be down on towards pit road, I think this time.
Yeah, let's have a look on board then, as, yeah, indeed he is. And you see the wiggle out 4. That's what we're talking about. I mean, your pit's entrance kind of starts through the apex of turn 4, Randy, because you can't push too wide because you need to get that car down to the inside. But Montanelli just getting himself a little bit loose, that bright pink car that had almost been involved in a couple of incidents earlier on here today, but he's running well right now on towards pit lane, and he is almost the last driver. We've got Bob Remmer, who's the last driver yet to make a pit stop on this sequence of green flag pit stops. The second round of green flag pit stops here. We've been racing for about 15 minutes or so now, Randy, and we're 73 laps of this 200 lap race almost scored complete.
Yeah, so I mean, we're already approaching the halfway distance here, and and we talked about it during the yellow sequences we had, Will, how quickly things can change. We went about 10 laps with 2 cautions, and we've since gone from lap 10 to lap number 72 without a single yellow flag being run just yet, and no sign of one coming here at the moment. But Will, it's time for you to start, I think, your trend of counting backwards. Junior Barbarema is definitely the one going the longest every single stint out here that we have. Is he the one doing the best counting backwards, and is he in a position to maybe win this thing, cut out a pit stop?
The thing that's worth noting is that he's not that far ahead right now of Ellis Jr. and Brandon Treno. So he's almost actually a full pit stop behind. So he's going to need a lot of luck on his side. Having a look at Bobarama and his fastest lap times here today, and just going to try and get that one now as he is on towards pit road, and his best lap is a 39.722, and that's pretty fast actually in the whole scheme of things. But of course, lap times only mean so much when you're running in the draft. He's fallen already down outside of your top 10. I would say if things get lucky for him in that kind of 10 lap sequence, he can be in the running, but he really needs to hope a caution comes out between the first wave of drivers coming on towards pit road and him then doing his pit stop.
We have actually had another car not have a great pit stop sequence. Chris Stouffer in the 20. Remember him. He was really along with the number 9 car, Michele Constantini, out there on the racetrack for really the bulk of this race up until this point. Something obviously went wrong on his pit stop because now he finds himself about 5 seconds behind Michele Constantini, running behind the 19 of Adam Blocker. So not a great situation there for the 20 car. There's now basically 2 cars at the head of the field, and Michele not far back down the back straightaway.
Yeah, just keeping an eye out on Christopher. He's about a third of a second behind Adam Blockers. They work them towards turn number 3 again. Behind Christian Steele, Riley Thompson. Well, Steele is in the top 10 right now in the Apex Racing Broken Aero machine. And his fastest lap of the day, 39.633, as they head themselves out of corner number 4 once again. Liam Quinn, by the way, has the fastest lap of the day at 39.355. As you can keep up to date with this entire race, just visit racebook.tv/timing. Steele does seem to have that same kind of like aero push here, Randy, that we've seen a lot of other drivers have, where you can get within about 3 tenths of a second in towards turn number 1, but then can't hold momentum through the short shoots.
Yeah, maybe struggling just a little bit with aero push, just, you know, maybe the adjustments just haven't come quite his way. I'm a little surprised that car wouldn't work as well in the dirty air, given where he started in 16th. Steele likely would have dialed in a slightly higher aero set, so maybe actually struggling in that respect as well. I will say though, Will, we talked at the top of the show and during the pre-race show about the dominance of some teams, and we talked about the Brazil team that was so dominant in qualifying. Now it's really shifted over to this Broken Arrow Apex Racing Evolution Racing team alliance, because you look through the top the top 3 are all Evolution Racing team / Broken Arrow cars. Then you have the likes of, I believe, at least the 4 of Christian Steele, the 17 of Brendan Lichtenberg in that mix as well. The bulk of the top 10 is made up of cars from that alliance.
But that's kind of been the situation for them the last couple of years, man. If we go back actually to 2016, we started seeing how strong this Broken Arrow team were, and they have been. It's almost been a kind of unkept secret that they've been working quite closely with Apex Racing UK as it was back then in 16, 17 and 18. Of course, now the Evolution Racing team, they get more drivers, and it's that one race a year that we actually really get the chance to talk about Broken Arrow, because they're not often featured on Racebook TV broadcasts, but they always turn up in the month of May.
Yeah, they definitely do. They always come out swinging this month, and you always know that the Broken Arrow cars, you'll talk to them and they'll be like, oh, I don't think we're feeling that confident. We don't seem very fast. We don't think we're very good. And then it's like, oh, hey, look, there's just 11 Broken Arrow cars in the top 10.
Yeah, just keeping an eye out, by the way, on Rick Music in the number 11 car. He's battling it out with John Downing, who's his teammate. Jonathan Doak there is right behind as well. I know, actually, John Doak kind of wanted but didn't want to be in the top split all at the same time. He was kind of worried about the ability, his situation, because he qualified, of course, at the rear end of the field, Randy, but he has been able to work himself up now into 13th place. One of those drivers that made a lot of positions early on. I'm sure Doak's happier now, though, than he was about lap 5 of this race.
Oh, I'm sure he is. He, like you said, he definitely didn't qualify in a great situation, given where he started, but he's done well to hold on to that car and work his way into a good sort of mid-pack position now, as he's following the likes of Downing and Music just out there in front of him. So nice little train there of cars, as these guys now just continue to work what has really turned into, with lack of better term, Will, the boring phase of this race, of the way things have really spread out and some issues on pit road for people. It's really waiting now to see if we get a caution to really shake things up, or really we have to go another stint or 2 before we talk about seriously talking about this race finishing under green from lap 10.
Yeah, as I said, the fewest cautions we ever had in Indy 500 history was 3. And that was actually the first race I commentated back in 2013, Randy. And a lot of drivers say they expect about 3 to 5 cautions in a race like this. It's worth noting that, you know, we do end up in situations over the years that we've had more cautions, especially in the last kind of 40 laps of a race. And you want to make comparisons. In some ways, the Indy 500 is similar to the likes of a Talladega or a Daytona race, because now people's just turning laps, ticking laps off. They've done what they might have needed to have done earlier on. If they want to start moving forward, well, they probably trimmed their car out to try and gain lap time. It's now about the physical fortitude of drivers and the mental fortitude of drivers, just being able to keep that rhythm, keep that momentum, do the weight jacket changes, do the anti-roll bar changes, but also just keep their head on the game and not just kind of doze off, because this track will bite you quickly.
Yeah, it'll come back and it'll bite you real quick. But you are right in that sense, in that it's a bit of mental just being smart at this point. And maybe some of those drivers, we always talk about this with the likes of the endurance stuff coming out within the last 5 years. You know, there are some of those cars and some of those drivers that have some endurance racing experience, or they may be at an advantage, the likes of Kevin Ellis Jr., anyone who's really turned last, Michele Constantini, in an endurance aspect. Are they in a better position just based on their ability that, you know, they're not, you know, totally, they're not out of their element getting told, okay, here's a GT car or a prototype, here's a mod, go run a 3-hour stint. You know, in comparison, an Indy 500 stint here, just a fuel stint, is really short. A fuel run lasts only about 20 minutes and compared to the hour that you're in a GT race car. So it definitely can be a factor, and it can be a huge, huge point, especially when you're like this, just out there just circulating laps, just ticking them down slowly and quietly. And like you said, very much like a Daytona or a Talladega, you know, we always talk about, you know, there's always discussions about the pack racing in real life and, you know, making it more exciting through the middle of the race. I say this, pay out $1 million whoever leads every single lap, and I bet you Daytona and Talladega get pretty feisty in real life.
Yeah. Team Talent, number 22 machine, Liam Quinn is out. He had a moment. I'm not sure whether he just bring his car back on track. I'm just going to try and replay this one a little bit further. We had an incident down, by the looks of it, down at turn 1 and turn 2. The replay is up for you right about now, as we're just having a look down in toward turn number 1. Here is the Team Talent number 22 machine, looking as though he's going to try and make a pass. Well, that dirty air forces him up into the grain. He actually makes contact, hits the wall down at turn number 1, able to use the short chute to slow that car down. But the thing is, Randy, you hit that and safer barrel on the outside is going to hurt your suspension. And unlike an NASCAR, one small tap and it's going to be pretty much game over for you.
I actually don't like that decision at all from Liam to even try and make that pass, because you're still not even 100 laps into this thing, and you're trying to hook up along the outside of Dylan Freckleton when he's got a car in front of him and Bradley Walters that's going to be just giving a huge dose of dirty air. I don't think that's a very good racecraft move or a very good race management move, Will, to be inside of 100 laps trying to force a move like this. So it's unfortunate for Liam. He's someone I've raced with a lot, someone I've worked with in a sort of teammate role before, but a bit of an ill-advised move, I think, trying to make that move stick before we're even 250 miles into this event.
Christian Steele, Marco Brazil battling for 7th place on track. And the gap is about 0.3 of a second. Like, you look at the lap times there. Lap number 84, they were identical, but Christian Steele in that dirty air again, Randy, just can't seem to find a way of doing anything. As we just go back and water him there now, and the gap is remaining at about 0.3 of a second. So they head down towards the start-finish line.
Yeah, you're right. So right now, Christian and Marco trying to work together here as they work through turn 1. And that 12th car, Marco Brazil, actually feathering the throttle quite a bit, it sounds like, through turn 1. I don't think the handling on that 12 car is really that great. So it seems now that Christian is likely just going to quietly lurk his way up there, maybe saving a little bit of fuel. Of course, these guys find themselves nearly 11 seconds off the back of your race leader, so quite a ways back from trying to be able to make anything of this. You also have Lichtenberg lined up behind Steele as well. As actually Christian closes a little bit to the likes of turns 3 and 4, push it a little bit out to the wall. But Christian just now actually is able to start reeling in that 12 car. And actually, I'm surprised he's not really being aggressive with the slipstream whatsoever, Will, on that 12 car. You see Marco kind of peel off towards the inside of the racetrack. Christian kind of keeps it right up against the outside wall. Normally think that you'd like to see him trying to keep in that slipstream, even if he's just trying to save gas, just for that extra little bit of fuel save that it can bring you. So a little bit odd to see Christian just basically rejecting the slipstream of Marco at the moment.
Yeah, just keeping an eye out, by the way, on the dash, in particular right about here, of Marco Brazil. And you just see that he's running at about 11,000 RPM the entire way around the racetrack. But you're right, he falls down to about 11,300 RPM down in turns number 3 and 4. In towards turn number 1, he's doing pretty much the same thing, actually down to 12,000 RPM. So yeah, he is feathering that throttle just a bit, Randy.
That, of course, is a part of the racetrack you're always going to see. That actually holds it very tight off of turn 2. It's a really interesting track outline that Marco is running off that second corner. But you're always going to see that, of course, going into turn 1, just because that is typically kind of regarded as the tightest corner on the racetrack, one of the more difficult corners on the racetrack. Not that any of them are really easy. I think if there was an easy corner, a lot of people might label it turn 3. Actually, we haven't even started talking about pit stop sequence again. Marco's going to hit pit road, so that 12 car once again leading the train of cars and starting at the pit stop sequence here early.
On board with Marco then in the KIYF Brazil Alliance machine, coming down to make his 3rd pit stop of the day. He did go a lap longer, Randy, on that stint compared to stints previous, but actually what I want to do right now is keep an eye out on Christian Steele and his lap time as now he's released into a bit of clean air, because this could be a godsend for that number 4 machine of Christian Steele.
It could be, but we've seen some cars as well be quick in the dirty air and the slipstream, but then again, they weren't really leapfrogging or working with one another. So first lap out in clean air, will he go a little bit quicker? He picks it up by just a little bit, by about a 10th, but he's still sort of in the ballpark of what he's been running over the course of this stint. So maybe a slight improvement for Christian that first lap. We'll see how it goes for the remaining laps, as actually it could be the next 10 or so till he comes down pit road that he has clean air that could make life easier on the tires. That 10-lap aggregate could be much quicker, but maybe not a huge amount each individual lap.
Yeah, and you can see that he's got his broken aero teammate behind him, of Brendan Lichtenberg, as we're on lap number 93 now, as Kevin Ellis Jr. comes on towards pit road. So more pit stops, our 3rd round of green flag pit stops. So after 2 cautions early on here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we are now into our 3rd round of green flag pit stops. And well, Randy, what this does mean, as we say, we talked about the alternate strategies. There is a way of saving some fuel in this car. These drivers have a number of different fuel mixtures that they can run, and that will give them maybe a lap, especially if they're in the draft, especially if they're tight. They can just turn that fuel mix down and probably get another lap. And each lap around here could well prove to be vital later on.
Definitely can, and you are right. Those fuel mixes, they aren't great if you ever have to accelerate, but if you can maintain speed, you can occasionally shift that fuel mixture down just a little bit and potentially, like you said, pick up an extra lap of fuel, or even just a little bit when you come down pit road. That'll enable you to short fill it. Both Treno as well as Michele Constantini both come down on towards pit road. I will say, interestingly enough here, is that with this pit stop sequence, they sort of ditched their teammate to a certain extent that they had been running so many laps with. Kevin Ellis Jr. had been part of that 3-car train of Treno and Constantini. They had been a 3-car group hitting pit lane every single time. This time through the racetrack, or this time through the pit stop sequence, the 3 of Treno and the 9 of Constantini, they go an extra lap compared to Kevin Ellis Jr. So maybe a little bit of a split strategy forming up here. Kevin maybe just not quite getting the fuel advantage. It looks like he'll inherit the race lead here along the outside of the broken arrow car, and he should just about be able to get that done. And indeed he will. Well, not the race lead, but will. Oh, we got a car spun on pit road. Michael Chin's race is over. At pit entry.
And there we are. More incidents on pit road. Let's go and have a look then. There is Michael Chin. He's 90 degrees perpendicular to the racetrack. He's now going to knock the yellow cone over. That car is crabbing. It needs a replay. This is Michael Chin. Is he coming on towards pit road? Does he just get loose? He just gets loose on 4, Randy. So whether or not he was aiming to come on towards pit road, that car slams onto the inside safety barrier, then onto the concrete barrier of the pit wall. And well, yeah, that was not a coming onto pit road moment for Michael Chin, because he was on the alternate strategy. He comes into 4, the back end just steps out, he runs too much onto the curb, cannot control it, cannot slow it down, and just hits the wall as a consequence. So despite the tens of thousands of laps that Michael Chin has turned here around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he is out of this event.
Yeah, and Michael's going to be really frustrated with that, because it's such a simple mistake to make here, just in traffic, just clipping the curb like that. I will say he did well to hold on to it. A lot of people would have immediately found themselves in the inside or outside wall from immediately overcorrecting, but he was talented enough to crash that car for about a quarter mile.
Yeah, he was. On board with Adam Blocker right now, up behind some traffic in the Power Slide Motorsports number 19 car as they work through corners number 3 and 4. And let's see, Blocker is going to stay out on track, but again, seems to be that this lap traffic is proving to be a problem for everyone here today, as he's going to go past. That was the number 20 machine, and that was Christopher who's made to get past. So Christopher, of course, is no slouch in this race. He's just had a couple of bad luck moments, shall we say, Randy.
Yeah, bad luck moments, maybe some not great cycles out there on pit road, but in order to do well in this race, you have to get those things absolutely perfectly right. As well, the start of this race seemed to fill out a little bit slow. We're only a couple laps out from halfway.
Yeah, indeed. So keeping an eye out on him as Rick Music's on towards pit road to make another pit stop right now. I did want to talk about, by the way, Brandon Traino, Kevin Jr., Michele Constantini. Constantini has come right back into this. Of course, it's not much of a surprise. Thing is, you've got the Apex Racing Team, Stroke Evolution Racing Team car, Kevin Jr. in second. Almost helping his teammate back into the mix. He's now going to be in a net third after this set of pit stops has been scored complete.
Yeah, you're right. So these three likely going to start working together because, of course, we know that the two Evolution Racing Team cars, they're both teammates, and we know that there's a technical alliance between ERT/Apex and Broken Arrow. So I don't think you're going to see these three be too aggressive with one another, Will. Until about lap, let's say 195, maybe 190, we might see the aggression pick up a little bit, and you might become colorblind and be like, oh, I didn't realize that was my teammate out in front of me. I'm sorry I gave him a nose and shot him up into the outside wall.
Yeah, there is Kevin Ellis Jr. We're right on board of him as Christian Challenger's on pit road. Adam Blocker leads the way as we're now on lap number 100 of 200 here. The halfway point of the 2019 iRacing Indianapolis 500, a race that has been 10 years in the making. And we are guaranteed to have a new winner in this event in terms of the Hall of Fame. Those that's won the broadcasted iRacing Indy 500 over the years. Adam Blocker comes on towards pit road then at the halfway point of this event in the Power Slide Motorsports car, coming in to make his third pit stop under green in a row here. Nicely on towards pit road. He had some issues early on, Randy, but nicely on towards pit road that time by 9.2 seconds out and away.
Yeah, he did. A little bit slow coming out of the box, but you don't want to make the mistake I made in the Friday race a couple years ago, which was be running about solidly mid-pack and then get some wheel spin and spin it into the outside wall, as he's actually going to be shuffling out not that far behind your race leaders. You see those three cars cycle out in front of him out there on the racetrack. But yeah, good quiet pit stop there from the 19. Looks like he'll be actually kind of by himself, I think, as far as fights for position are concerned. He'll be around some lap traffic, though. The 27 of Silvio Sanchez is there, and actually John Goke. Actually, no, I take that back. What's happened to John? John is about 9 laps down. What have we missed?
Wow, so John Goke's race has come to an end. As, yeah, you're right. He's been on pit road for about 6 minutes now. He was on pit road for about 6 minutes. There he is, back on track. And, of course, that car looks fine now, but might have had to have had some form of a rear ring change or something, Randy. Because, I mean, that car looks fine, but, yeah, some incident for John Goke away from our screens.
Yeah, he had actually, it looks like on lap 88, his lap 88, he caught a little bit of the curb on turn 3, and he actually ended up sliding up and smacking the wall through the short chute between 3 and 4, and he comes down on pit road and he just basically gets out of the car. So I think he's likely just had a 5 or 10 minute repair that he had to take. So unfortunate there for Goke. The car, you can see a little bit towards the right side rear tire flare where it sort of is bent in a little bit. That's only the only damage that really remains as Thompson cycles back out onto the racetrack, or exits pit road rather. But regardless, he's now well down the order, and that's pretty much race done for him. Or potentially maybe the most miraculous race win we've ever seen. No, his day's over.
Pretty much, yeah, for Jonathan Goke. It's now just a point of turning laps and getting to the end of this race. And in some ways, Randy, we talk about it, like in an endurance race, you race the clock, the first thing you want to do is finish the motor race. Even though you might have had some incidents, if that car is drivable, you want to try and complete as many of the 200 laps as possible. Of course, a track like this at Indianapolis, you don't want to have a car that is twitchy nose all over the place, because it create issues for yourself and other drivers. But if that car is drivable, then you want to try and complete every single lap if you can.
Yeah, you're right. You want to get as far as you possibly can into this motor race. And, you know, just if for anything else, just for bragging rights, but still. I know someone like Goke, he's not going to be happy with himself to have his race end because of an incident like that.
Yeah, as we're having a look at Christopher running it in the 7th place. Riley Thompson, by the way, he's having such a good run. We haven't really talked about it. Well, that TDR by Team Talent car has cycled through into the 6th place on track. It's Christian Challenger is there in the mix as well. You can just see as we have a look from our aerial coverage brought to you by And One Design, thinking about going free wide in towards turn number 1. They don't, but Christopher is going to get ahead of Christian Steele for the moment. Actually, no, he falls behind Brendan Lichtenberg. Yeah, it's Brendan Lichtenberg he falls behind, so they exit turn number 2. We're back on board now with Stouffer's ahead towards 3.
Yeah, I will say as well, not only has that car been doing well, of Riley Thompson, I've also been really impressed with the one of Christian Challenger. To my knowledge, Christian isn't an IndyCar regular, and we've seen sort of the peak drivers in the past come out. I know, like you said, we've seen Ray Alfala come out, and we've also seen the likes of John Gorlinski running this Indy 500. Christian Challenger is the most recent one for sure, as it's been, I think, kind of a year or two hiatus from a lot of the NASCAR, big NASCAR guys. He's coming out here, and he's right now fighting inside of the top 5 and, doing well with some experienced names. Riley Thompson's a regular in the IndyCar, and you have the likes of Brendan Lichtenberg around him. Also Chris Stouffer, who's just got shuffled down the order a little bit. And Christian Steele not far behind. That number 1 car is looking really nice here today. So huge props from me to Christian Challenger for his performance thus far. He's currently solidly inside the top 5, inside 100 laps to go.
Yeah, he just got himself past Riley Thompson. Made that pass actually look pretty easy, if I'm going to be honest, as they head themselves down towards the yard of bricks once again. But actually, here comes Riley Thompson making the move back in towards turn number 1. And that was a nice clean pass there by the number 11 machine over the number 1. And one thing that, of course, is kind of worth thinking about here, Andy, is because we're right in the heart of the eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series season, a lot of drivers just don't have the time to spend on qualifying and running these races, which is why we often only see maybe 1 or 2 drivers take part. I know over the years some drivers said we wish we had an extra week to prepare for the next eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series race, because otherwise they would take part. But of course the next race of that series is going to be at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and that's coming up this Tuesday night.
Yeah, and that's going to be the longest race of the season for those guys at 200 laps. So, yeah, I mean, it is sort of a tough situation and a tough deal. And in a lot of cases, Will, this is the sort of situation where you just kind of have to know someone or know a team and kind of be able to get given a set that just sort of drives itself to a certain extent, which, thankfully a lot of the fast sets aren't just constantly on ice for 200 laps. I mean, you're seeing that from the bulk of this field. You're not seeing any crazy moves from these cars that have worked their way out there toward the head of the field. Unless the driver makes a mistake, you're not seeing any crazy oversteer moments or the car breaking out or something like that. It's really all the issues we've seen in the last 30, 40 laps have just been unforced driver errors, really. So it's in that respect, that's what you need to rely on. It's like, can this car kind of drive itself? What do I need to know? Okay, don't hold it flat out in dirty air. Keep it off the curb. Okay, I should be able to stretch myself out there for a couple 100 laps and not make a total fool of myself. And Christian Challenger's done just that. As we got a Sadie car slow on the in lane. That's Bradley Walters, who's already 4 laps down. He's slow on the inside of 3 and 4. Not sure what's befallen that 23 car, but seemingly nothing good.
No, he's on towards pit road again. Let's have a look. This is him coming through turn 2. So he might have had anything down at turn number 1, actually.
I don't think so, actually. I just clicked through. I think he maybe just got repairs on that car. And I think just isn't happy. Yeah, I don't think he's happy with it, because he kind of came out, ran a few laps, and then took the inroad through 3 and 4. I rewound through his most recent laps, and he didn't have any incidents with the wall. So unfortunate there for the Sadie car, as we talked about the fact that they were running actually quite well, Will, but they've all just sort of attrition their way out of competition.
Yeah, and this is where the experience sometimes come into play. Of course, Sadie Sim Motorsports, we see them quite often in IndyCar racing. They've established themselves as one of the big teams, actually, in some ways. But Bradley Walters doing the right thing. So I was just noting, as I was riding on board of him, Randy, that he was struggling to keep that car in 5th gear. He's having to downshift, and I did see the rotation of that car didn't look that nice in turn number 1 that last time by. And I think that Walters just thought, okay, it's not quite right. And this is what I talk about. In a race like this, you've got to be honest with yourself sometimes and pull that car on towards pit road, because the last thing you want to do is create a late race caution. And I've seen it happen here before, that people who's had incidents come back on track, try driving it around, and they can completely change the entire flow of the race.
Yeah, you definitely can. If you're out there and so hilariously off speed, or the car is just not handling right, that you're just sort of logging laps for the point of logging laps. I mean, it's important to remember that there's no championship on the line for any of these guys. It's really just a fight for the race win. So it's not like that extra couple points you get maybe by finishing 31st or 20th versus 22nd, if you were to end it, really matters in the grand scheme of things. But you never want to be the person that caused a late race incident that potentially ruined someone's race or caused a huge issue. I will say as well, talking about the strategy in the pit stop cycle, the 12 car's woes continue, Will, as he just continued to fall further and further down the order. Remember, he was ahead of the likes of Stouffer and Steele, I think, before that last trip through pit road. He now finds himself 10th behind both of those cars, and I think slowly getting reeled in by the likes of the 18 and the 25. Those are the two remaining Sadie cars of John Downing and Rick Music in the 11th and 12th spots. So Marco's next pit stop likely going to be soon here. He came down pit road on lap number 91, so about 8 laps out from that at the most.
Yep. He did have a long pit stop that last time by, actually. 11.4 seconds as the top 8 there along the bottom of your screen. It's Traino from Ellis Jr., from Constantini, Blocker, Thompson, Challenger, Lichtenberg, and Stouffer. But that is the big story of the day here, Randy, in my opinion. The fact that we had so many Brazilian drivers in terms of this team alliance and Brazil alliance at the front of your field, but they have all fallen back in the first half of this motor race. In fact, your highest placed driver of that group now is Marco Brazil, who is currently 15 seconds behind your race leader. This is not the way the big Brazilian contingent were looking to do here. And I think there's a lot of Brazil fans that are really looking forward to this race and feel just a little bit deflated right now.
Yeah, probably just a little bit, and it's unfortunate for that entire group that their race program just wasn't quite up to the sort of pace that their qualifying was. And I will say, Will, I'm going to be shocked. I know a lot of the drivers from some of the teams were a little bit like, who are a lot of these guys? Because they were a lot of new names. A lot of the Brazilians that managed to get their way into the top split were people I had never seen before. And I'd be shocked if some of these existing teams don't reach out to Marco after this and say, hey, do you want to work together? Do you want to work on alliance? Because that Brazil qualifying pace was extraordinary. And I know for a fact, 100% sure, that even though some people were skeptical of the group, I think there's going to be some reaching out for a bit of a technical alliance from probably, I'd say, almost all of the teams to a certain extent.
Yeah, as we're just riding aboard of Kevin Ellis Jr. And I think what's happening right now is that Ellis Jr., Traino, Constantini, they're just stretching themselves out a little bit here, Randy. More than anything else, I think, just to give themselves a little bit of tyre life, because we have seen tyre wear be pretty high here today. I did talk about the track temp being very high, and of course this Indianapolis Motor Speedway, they run a hard tyre anyway, but this track can be quite abrasive. Not as abrasive as 2008 NASCAR race, but still pretty high tyre wear at points, especially if you're in dirty air.
Yeah, and that's the big talking point oftentimes. And the IndyCar is actually Marco Brazil. Scary tight off of turn 4 in completely, actually not completely clean air. He's actually done well to reel in Christian Steele a little bit, but he just got scary tight coming off that final corner and really had to pedal it coming off turn 4. So, yeah, I mean, the tires really can be an issue for all of these guys if you're not used to those tires burning out. And especially, like he said, as this race goes on, Will, and especially with all the green flag running we've had, you know, a lot of rubber and a lot of marble is likely starting to build up on that racetrack, and the temperature of the racetrack itself is likely starting to come up.
Yeah, as we're just having a look, and it's actually, I did notice earlier on, Randy, that he was struggling through turn 4. That car seemed to be pushing up towards the wall a little bit, so he is having issues there. And now he's hit that dirty air of Christian Steele. I just think that Marco, he's going to have to really work those in-car tools, but you can't just click on a couple of clicks of weight jacker. You've actually got to, you know, be careful, because otherwise the back end could over-rotate, and you'll do what Michael Chin did earlier on.
Yeah, absolutely right with that one, and that's not a mistake you ever want to make, especially at this stage of the race. Now the final 80 laps, you're sort of in a really good position. I'd say if you're in the top 10, even though you're so far off, Will, with the way the pit stop strategy is really working out at the moment, you know, I think if you're in the top 10, top 12, you're in a pretty decent place for the most part, as long as you've had a trend of moving your way forward, especially with the fact that any caution pretty much turns this race on its head at some point and will get everyone onto the same cycle.
Yeah, indeed. We're looking at Rick Music, John Downing, right now, as we have just lost some of our feed here. No, we've got it back. We're all fine. We are all fine. But yeah, Randy, very quickly, going to hand over to you. We're on board of Rick Music and John Downey battling out for 11th place on track.
With a couple of Sadie teammates, they may be saying fighting out for just a little bit, but I don't think they're going to be really fighting with each other for too much. They're likely just going to quietly run in single file, as we've seen so many of the teammates do thus far this running, like the Trano and Kevin Ellis Jr. at the head of the field, doing very much the same thing. It's through turns 1 and in towards the short chute through 1 and 2 on the south side of the racetrack. This duo will go, and then we'll start lap number 120 as we're keeping an eye on that 12 car, Marco Aurelio Brazil, who should be down on towards pit road any moment now. I actually think this might be his in lap. It's through turn 3. The 12 car
maybe
will go.
One more lap, I think.
Yeah, maybe one more lap. I will say, though, the way he's lifting through turn 3 and turn 4, he's out of the throttle in that car through the center of the corners, and he's coming down on towards pit road actually right now. So something is not right with these Brazil race cars, Will. The race setup is not good.
They're too trimmed out.
If Marco's having to lift this late in the run through the center of 3 and center of 4, I mean, your race set's going to pretty much have max aero. I mean, a race setup in clean air like that should be easy flat almost the entire run.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that they are just running something on that car is designed for running fast in clean air. The second they get behind traffic, they've been struggling. And I remember actually saying all the way back in about lap number 4, Randy, that I was really looking forward and really interested to see what would happen when Constantini and the other Brazilian Alliance drivers get into some dirty air. And it looks to me like the car is not set up for it. And I was going to say at that point as well, I think fuel is almost secondary there for Brazil, compared to, the back end steps on him then on the short chute through turn number 2. That car was suddenly getting loose. But I was going to say the tyre situation, I think, overtook the fuel situation for him there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why Marco's been coming down pit road as early as he has been. He just doesn't have the tire life in that car. And talking about the fact that they've not been very good in race trim, Will, I think is also, it's an easy trap to fall into, isn't it? You start working on qualifying as Christopher comes down pit road, maybe another car out there. Nope, no one else on pit road just yet. It's an easy trap to fall into. You sort of work on a qualifying setup that is good or competitive or fast, and then you start, I should be able to do some similar things to the race setup. And if you don't do any dirty air practice, it can just be an absolute disaster. Never mind. I take that back. Brandon Trano's coming on towards pit road. The camera perspective I saw, it looked like Trano was running the normal line and Ellis was about to just plow into the outside wall. So that was a bit of a I'll just say I got debated by a camera angle. But it's an easy trap to fall into. You start trimming the car out for qualifying. You say, this is fast. We're going to do this in the race. And then you get out there in the race and you just get absolutely... You go into turn 1 for the first time, and it's like, oh no, this is not going to be a fun experience. Actually, my first time really experiencing a good top-level Indy set was my current teammate. He helped me out at a Homestead, I'm going to date myself, Will, a Homestead ISO WC race. And he gave me his quali set, and I was like, wow, this is really good. I'm just going to fill this up and run it in the race. Believe it or not, it was not very good in the race with full fuel.
I'm just going to say, by the way, Brandon Trano came on towards pit road, overshot his pit stall, so that's going to cost him about half a second as Kevin Ellis Jr. is in. So we're going to get a pretty quick comparison time, actually, as here comes Kevin Ellis Jr. perfectly into his pit stall in the Evolution Racing Team SpeedCafe.com car as pulling the revs up. 9.3 seconds. Fantastic pit stop there for Kevin Ellis Jr. Brandon Trano was a tenth of a second slower on the pit stop, but lost about half a second in terms of the actual journey through pit road itself. In fact, no. Trano lost 1.5 seconds, actually. So this is going to give Ellis Jr. command of the motor race. Is the race starting to fall away from Brandon Trano once again?
That would be a disaster, and Brandon's going to be more than frustrated with that. I mean, you heard the frustration earlier when we were talking to Brandon just about that race that he came so close to winning in 2016. And, we're friends with Brandon. We've interacted with him for years, so there's a little tongue-in-cheek and some friendly ribbing back and forth. But that is a very much probably a soft spot in his heart that he let that race slip away from him. Now he finds himself in another very, very similar situation. As I will say, the strategy split for this kind of trio at the head of the field, Will, continues as they've gone from all three cycling on towards pit road at the same time to this time they've all come down on separate laps. Michele Constantini cycles back out on towards pit road now in the 9 car. So interesting that the 3 cars at the head of the field, all of the technical lines, are now all circulating at different sort of wavelengths out there on the racetrack, as Trano has actually done well to reel in Kevin Ellis Jr.
Yep, Christian Steele has retired from the motor race.
Oh, no.
So, Christian Steele, number 4 car, his day is done. Run for you retirees then from the very beginning. Emerson Takashima in the number 32 car, out very early here at Indianapolis. AJ Burton involved in one of the wrecks early on. Alex Simpson actually involved in both of the incidents early on. As Brandon Trano, by the way, was talking about the race potentially slipping away from him. He's actually got himself now back past Kevin Ellis Jr. So throw that one into the wrench box. Vinicius Cortadello involved in the second incident of the day. David Adams, Alan Moria all out. Jeff Drake was out early. Then Martin Miller had an incident by himself. He's out of this motor race. Carlos Washington, Liam Quinn, Michael Chin, Bradley Walters, Jonathan Goke, Christian Steele are out. 18 drivers of the 32 that started are still running in this event. And well, this is one of the reasons why you get less and less cautions as the race goes on, Randy, because we've lost about a third of our field now, just over a third of our field.
Yeah, we have. And of course, with the way this pit stop sequence has cycled its way through, the gaps are absolutely enormous at the moment. All right, right now I'm actually just doing sort of a check up and down the field. I'm curious if anyone might be able to cut out a pit stop, Will. Latest I've seen anyone actually enter pit road was lap 102 of the most recent run. I don't see anyone, and that was actually the 11 of Riley Thompson. We need to keep an eye on this because we're sort of in the window-ish of maybe being able to cut out a stop if you can go deep enough and then run long enough on the fuel. You'll have to do about 35 laps if you come down on lap 130, but of course Riley Thompson still can do a couple laps. I think if you can stretch 32 or 33, you'll just about be able to cut out a pit stop.
So all that work that some of the teams did at the very beginning of this race, Randy, on lap number 6 when we had our first caution of the day, that is potentially coming back into play right now. So that could be a fascinating story in terms of if they can save themselves a pit stop late on in this event here. It was Christian Challoner, Riley Thompson, Brandon Lichtenberg. They're all involved in the mix right now, although I do see 1 driver, 2 drivers on towards pit road. Brandon Lichtenberg is one of those coming in lap number 130. That's not enough.
Yeah, 35. You'll have to run 35 laps. So it's right now, keep an eye on the 11, keep an eye on the 1, keep an eye. Those are really the 2 cars. The 11 and the 1 car are the ones to keep an eye on. They need to go as late as they can if this is a strategy you're kind of hoping for. Like we said, 33 laps is sort of the longest expected amount that you could potentially go in a fuel tank. But they said the same thing about Alexander Rossi.
Well, yeah, and somehow he managed to make, and this comes back to the fuel mixtures as well. If you come onto that last run and you are a lap short, yeah, Challenger's on towards pit road in the number 1 car. If you are a lap short and you're on that final run, you've got to start fuel saving early. You cannot wait until the end to start fuel saving. And one of my biggest victories ever on iRacing was a fuel safe race, Randy. But the thing that so many people mess up on is they don't commit to the fuel safe strategy early on.
Yeah, you have to commit to it early. In some ways, for these guys, they would have likely had to commit to it like nearly 2 stints ago, which is something similar that happened actually with that Herta Rossi car when they ended up winning this. We need to keep an eye on this 11 car. Can he go a couple of more laps? He's not coming down pit road just yet, so he's definitely got very, very good fuel economy. This will be, I believe, his 30th trip around the racetrack, lap number 30. Like I said, lap 102 was his in lap, and some sketchy moments with traffic actually all around here. Keep an eye on this because there's a petrol yellow, and there it goes. J.R. Borborema's around. The 27 car, Silvio, gets into the back of the dark purple car, and a caution on the speedway changes everything.
Oh my word. Here we are then. Here is the replay on board. We're actually not going to go on board on the number 7. And that's just a stupid incident there down into turn number 1, Randy. I'm sorry. In terms of this race, I mean, it's a 200 lap long race, and I don't honestly know what was happening there.
I really don't either. It's really interesting to me. I mean, Silvio made 2 really over-aggressive moves. He made a really aggressive one on Jonathan Goke, which I actually think was okay, but I don't know if there's a miscommunication between the teammates. I mean, Barbarema is, pretty much on the lead lap. They are both of those cars. Actually, Silvio was a lap down on JR Barbarema, so Silvio was trying to unlap himself. I don't know. I just don't think there's any reason the 27 car should have ever shoved the nose like that.
Yeah.
Just definitely, I mean, it's a horrible move, kind of as you said. I will say this opens pit strategy up for everyone because we're still not quite at that point that you could go to the end comfortably on gas.
Everyone comes on towards pit road. If you're outside the top 10, come up again and top up. That would be my suggestion. But everyone should come on towards pit road this time by. I think that's an absolute certainty, Randy, because otherwise you're too far out of the window to make anything work. If you're outside the top 10, you might as well just come back in. There's only 19, 18, 17 drivers now left in this race. You might as well come back in because you're not going to lose too much.
I feel like to some of these Sadie cars and some of these other cars that we have, Will, that are traditionally competitive that are a lap down, do you stay out and take the wave around if you've just recently come down and actually pit and get yourself back out on the lead lap? I think that's what you have to do, right?
I'd say for them, yes. I think you're completely right. We have, though, got Jonathan Goke in the number 10 machine. Randy, you can talk to him.
Well, caught up with the driver of that number 10 car. Jonathan, that Rainbow Warriors car has looked decent most of the day. Unfortunate that you had that incident off of turn 3 a handful of laps ago. It's actually 30 or 40 laps ago. Quite a lot of time has ticked off. What have you, you're one of the more experienced drivers. How has this IR18 been this season compared to both last year and the other cars? Of course, you've driven around this place for 500 miles.
It seems to me it's a lot more aero dependent. Like, I thought I had a pretty good set. I was pretty good early on, but as soon as the tires got worn, I got in the air of all the other fast drivers. I just couldn't handle it, and I just bit the wall all by my own doing.
Now I know you find yourself down there 16 laps, but you did well in the early goings to run yourself, I think, from 28th, and you were inside of the top 10, I think nearly inside the top 5 at one point. You've been around most of these cars enough. You know who likely has a fast hot rod and who doesn't. Looking up and down the order, who do you think really are the cars to beat right now?
You can never go wrong with Trano. He just kills it here. And I really like Michelle. He has been fast all week. One of the nicest guys you will ever meet. And so I'm hoping for Michelle.
So we got Jonathan Gook, seems to be a Michele Constantini fan. Thanks for joining us, Jonathan, from inside of the race car as you still circulate out there on the racetrack. Before we let you go, who's getting it done for that number 10 Rainbow Warrior themed machine?
Oh, that's Ray and Dan over at Last Lap Motorsports and Chad Simpson. They're killing it for me. They brought me on, and I tried to give them a good run, and unfortunately I let them down today.
Oh, there he was, Jonathan Gook. In that number 10 car, still circulates out there on the racetrack. Pit stop sequence pretty much shuffles through, and I don't see any major changes up and down your running order for the most part. Everyone likely would have came down for 4 tires and fuel, except those cars getting themselves back on the lead lap. And like we said, that's going to be a difficult point for those guys who did not come down pit road, because they are going to definitely be disadvantaged here with the pit stop sequence. Actually, some cars may not have pit. I don't think our leader came down pit. Yeah, that's actually really odd to me, Will, and I'm not going to lie. I dislike the call.
Yeah, I think it's I honestly would have said put some fuel in the car, because yes, people will get their lap back. That doesn't really matter. Put some fuel in the car. You've got to start counting back. Now, as it stands, you're going to have 2 laps under caution. 2 laps of fuel that you'll be saving under caution. But it still means, as it stands, he's going to have to save every single lap from now on. In fact, the best placed people, Riley Thompson, Adam Blocker, Christopher right now, they are on 2 laps or 1 lap in terms of a fuel run. Everyone else, Brandon Trano, Kevin Ellis Jr., Michele Constantini, 12, 11, and 10 laps. Remember what we said to Trano earlier? What Trano said to us even about the fact that he lost this race on strategy?
Yeah, I'm so shocked that these guys didn't cut this strategy off, the likes of Trano, Kevin Ellis, because now you're in a situation, Riley Thompson, we've been talking about him doing about 31, 32 lap stints this entire race. you need to string two 32-lap stints together, and you cut out a pit stop. So all of these cars that didn't come down pit road, we've seen the Broken Arrow cars in the past get it wrong on strategy, and I just think we saw ERT be a victim of Broken Arrow not understanding proper strategy around this place.
Yep, we're on board though from the rear of Brandon Trainer. 3 cautions then in the books. 136 laps going to be scored complete as we go back to green flag racing here at the greatest spectacle in all of sim racing, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the 10th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500, and we are once again underway as the field will come down in towards one actually really calm restart for the most part, Randy.
Yeah, things have been really tame up and down here towards the head of the field. The top 3 cars able to break away. You know, there's likely maybe a little bit of a choreographed restart for that group, but keep an eye on that 4th place running car on Riley Thompson. If it goes green, I think that's our favorite at the moment. As the race lead's going to change, Kevin Ellis Jr. will lead him in towards turn 3.
Yeah, we saw that as we were on board. Michele Constantini, Riley Thompson. I mean, he's been fast here today, Randy. He's been able to keep it with the other drivers. Now he's got to be able to withstand the pressure of running in a pack, which I think is going to involve about 7 drivers. And look at that one.
Oh, God.
Power move down the inside. And that was Adam Blocker working 2 places in one corner.
That was really aggressive there from the 19. I'm not going to lie. That borderlined on silly as the 19 car is trying to break up this ERT Broken Arrow leading pack and leading group here. As you see up the inside goes Michele Constantini once again through corner number 3. And look at the cars to the tail end of this lead pack that actually came down pit road, Will. The likes of Riley Thompson, who we know pit. Brendan Lichtenberg and Christian Challoner, I think they both hit pit road as well. Those cars are not being aggressive in this lead group whatsoever. They're just sitting back and saving fuel. The 2 car wants the race lead once again.
Yep, so there is Kevin Ellis Jr. Then we're looking on board with Ellis Jr. right now. Let's actually go and have a look from the rear. He's got himself Brandon Trano, who is a 10th or a second back. Blocker in 3rd. Michele Constantini in the 4th places. Here comes Brandon Trano down to the race lead. Once again in towards turn number 3.
Everyone fighting for out toward the head of this field at the moment. Blocker, the 3 of Trano right up against the wall in the short chute between 3 and 4. I think he just managed to escape with that one, but that's a scary moment for the 3 car Brandon Trano, as once again Kevin Ellis Jr. wants to take the point away in towards turn number 1, as this time Blocker and Constantini, nothing they can do with this one.
Yep, as we are counting down the laps here now at Indy. 61 laps to go in this motor race. And actually, I want to keep an eye out on this guy, Christian Challoner, in the number 1 machine, because through that caution flag, Randy, he's back in this race now in the number 1 team talent car. He's got to get, in my opinion, past Brendan Lichtenberg before too long, because the other drivers ahead of him just started to pull away a little bit. But Challoner, the eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series driver, he is now back in contention.
Yeah, he is, and he's looked good all race long. So Christian Challoner, and he's in a very good situation. He didn't come down pit road during the caution sequence, Will, which I would have if I was him, just to top up. But remember, he was the most recent car on pit road just before we got that yellow. Riley Thompson hadn't just yet pit. His race lead's going to swap again in towards turn 1. So Christian Challoner and Riley Thompson, very similar fuel situations at the moment as they run.
Yeah, on board once again, and Kevin Ellis Jr. We did just show you Chris Dofer. He's been passed by Rick Music, but Randy, he's one of those drivers that needs to be behind another driver in order to save fuel. As here comes Kevin Ellis Jr. once again as they come past the yard of bricks. Ellis Jr.'s going to go down the inside and he's going to make that move complete. But Chris Dofer is one of those drivers, because of the amount of fuel he's got in that car, because he's early into a run compared to everyone else, we cannot ignore him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was late on pit road, like you said, so he's one to really keep an eye on as he's hanging out with the likes of Rick Music at the moment. Still 3 seconds or so behind your race lead, but again, if you're trying to run the fuel save strategy, Will, you may be off pace. So it's possible that one of those cars in that second pack, if any of them were able to come down pit road, get topped up, and can fuel save here, it is possible your race winner could come from that second group.
Yep. Behind, however, it goes from bad to worse for Marco Brazil. as he's now all the way down in P number 14. In fact, he is the last driver on the lead lap right now, Randy. And to make matters even worse, he's worse on fuel than any other driver. So we talked about some of your top drivers not coming on towards pit road. Why Brazil didn't come onto the lane absolutely astounds me.
Why, and not even just for fuel. Why wouldn't he come down for tires? We've seen that car struggle on tires absolutely all race long, and he's basically setting up for basically a couple twin 31 lap stints. He's been going 30. I have a feeling that car could stretch 31 laps per stint to get his way to the end. But yeah, very curious call there from Marco to not come down pit road as Kevin Ellis Jr. cycles back into your race lead once again. And I did get confirmation, by the way, the cars we're really looking at that pit during that caution, the 11 of Riley Thompson and the 20 of Chris Stouffer are the cars that I've seen that came down pit road during that pit stop sequence. Those are the cars to keep an eye on when this race kind of cycles itself out of people who could maybe stretch the fuel number.
Chris Stouffer is 1 lap better than this driver. It's Riley Thompson in the Team DR with Team Talent car as ahead. You can just see the fact that Kevin Ellis Jr. has got himself back past Brandon Traino here. Number 145 here now of this race. And Thompson just needs to get a little bit closer and think if he wants to try and save fuel, because he does need to save a lap of fuel on this stint, a lap of fuel on the next stint. The fact that Traino and Ellis Jr. are changing position so often, you might think in normal circumstances, Randy, that would allow everyone else to close back up. But it's a technique that really started in the DW12, where actually if you just allow the person ahead of you...
Constantini on pit road.
Wow, that's early.
Well, I mean, remember, they didn't come down pit road at the caution, and this is what I'm so confused about. Why none of those Evolution Racing Team cars came down pit road during the yellow. We've only been green for about 8 laps. If you can only run 8 laps on a tank of fuel, we got another car exiting pit road. That's Marco Brazil, so it's the same mistake there as well. If you can only run 8 or 10 laps on a tank of gas before you have to pit during a yellow, why in the world would you not come down pit road when there's over 50, 60 laps left to go in the race? I'm so shocked by this ERT and broken arrow strategy that they pulled out. A couple other drivers stay out, but McKaylee makes the early call, maybe wanted to get out of traffic as the 2 is going to make a move for the race lead once again, but that'll give Adam Blocker 3rd and Riley Thompson 4th.
Yeah, to go back to my point though, you normally say, Randy, that people going too wide for the corners, it means everyone slows back down. It doesn't actually occur here, because what you often see is that they're alongside before they get in towards turn 1 or turn 3, and actually it can be faster, allowing someone to pass you and you to pass them back on the opposite side of the racetrack, in terms of the fact that you get the overspeed in terms of the draft, and essentially just makes all of the pack a little bit faster.
Exactly, and it's you have to work together. It's one of those things that you can't just do it naturally. That leading car has to let that second place car be close enough, or second in line car, be close enough that second car can get a good run, and that lead car needs to play with that throttle a little bit, maybe lift out of it. Oh, Kevin Ellis Jr. clips the curb and doesn't quite hit the bump right through turn 2. Bit of a wiggle, able to hold on to that. But you need to sort of work together and let that second car get a run. They don't do it this time, and look at the way the 19 of Adam Blocker can close up because of it. That's going to be a big dose of dirty air, though, with how close he is to those 2 front-running cars on this train. Also side by side at the tail end of this train, and a big slide from Marco Brazil, who of course just came down pit road, and what a save from the driver of the 12 car trying to keep out of the 17 of Brendan Lichtenberg.
Here's the replay in towards turn number 3, and they're side by side on the short shoot in towards turn 4. Brazil, he's gonna catch the curve and a bit of grass there as well, and he manages to keep that car pointed in the right direction, but that could have been caution number 4 of this motor race. And well, today's iRacing Indy 500 will be remembered as the downfall of the Brazil Alliance team in terms of race pace. And that car, the number 12 machine, just looks like an absolute handful right now.
Yeah, it does. That 12 car does not look comfortable whatsoever, and it hasn't. Basically, we're 150 laps into this race. It hasn't looked comfortable since Marco lost that race lead. What was it, about 140 laps ago, when the likes of Traino, Ellis, and everyone else in this lead group was able to situate themselves back on the racetrack. Michele Constantini, by the way, he's in sort of an interesting situation as he's out there in super clean air at the moment. He has absolutely no one around him on the racetrack, so he'll be able to comfortably keep his foot flat. But as we know, and as we've been talking about, you can oftentimes find speed with the slipstream, and here comes Kevin Ellis Jr. for his scheduled pit stop.
Yeah, I was going to say, most importantly, Michele Constantini is also on the lead lap. That is vitally important. But here comes them on towards pit road. Kevin Ellis Jr. for the Evolution Racing team on towards pit road to make what will be his second to last pit stop of the day. Nicely into his pit stall then. He did slide a little bit, Randy, but he gets into it, and he's going to come out and away in a total time of 8.2. He's starting then in terms of slicing these two stints in half.
And that's exactly what you want to be doing if you're going for this strategy. You need to come down pit road, you need to short fill that car, you need to get back out there on the racetrack, because of course you don't need to run 30 X-lap stints to get yourself to the end, because we know those cars still have to make at least one more pit stop to get their way to the end. It's these other cars, like we said, the 11 of Riley Thompson and the 20 of Chris Stouffer that we're really keeping an eye on, who maybe only need one more pit stop, but they've yet to come down pit road and make that sort of penultimate they've already made what we think maybe their second to last pit stop. They still owe us one, whereas everyone else on the racetrack basically needs to make two stops under green.
Yeah, Christian Challoner, you might be able to put into that one because of the caution, Randy. Remember you called him the fact that he was too early, and then the caution flag pretty much came out immediately. Depending on how much Christian Challoner saved under the pace car, he might, and I emphasize the word might, just be able to do it, but he's still got a lot of fuel saving to go. And I think that's the reason why he's not put any pressure right now on Riley Thompson. You just see that gaggle of cars from P number 2 all the way down to P5 on track, as we are going to see
what's
change of
happened with
position.
the second group? Well, how does Trano suddenly have a 1.x second lead?
To be fair, he did have an advantage, and don't forget you've got yourself Ellis Jr. who's coming towards pit road, Constantini's coming towards pit road, Riley Thompson was falling back anyway.
Were they really falling back by this much though? Something's happened in the last couple laps to the likes of Blocker and Thompson and Challoner in this second pack. It's a 3-second lead now between Trano and Riley Thompson.
I think they're all fuel safe. I think they're saving hard already. I think they knew they couldn't keep with Brandon Trano, and I think they're just starting to save hard already, to be honest.
I'm curious to why they would wait so long in order to do this. So they switch into hardcore fuel save mode, and you're right, they're 2 seconds per lap off the pace. So they've gone into one of we've talked about the fuel maps in the past and over the course of this show. What's happening is all of them have just switched into a fuel save map, and they're running about 2 seconds off the pace. Now you have the likes of the third pack of the likes of Music, Stouffer, and Downing. They're about to catch this entire group in really the next lap or so.
There you are. Well, actually, last time by, they picked it back up to 40.6. I'm not quite sure. They didn't seem as though they were necessarily squabbling for positions. But the lap previously, they all did 42-second laps. And I think the issue is, Randy, what they were doing is that everyone just kept matching the speed of Riley Thompson. They weren't trying to overtake anyone. And that's how they lost that 2 seconds. But you are right, because all of a sudden, here comes the likes of Lichtenberg into the fray, but then you've also then got the likes of Rick Music, etc. going to start catching up before too long.
Well, let's see what the lap times are going to be this time, because if it's not a 42, then I'm just internally confused. It's a 40.5. Compare that to your race leader. Trano goes to a 40.3, so the pace isn't quite there. Rick Music to a 40.4 as well in that sort of what is actually, I guess, technically the second pack of cars. So this sort of second to about 5th or 6th on the racetrack is the slower group of cars right now amongst your race leaders. So maybe they just did one super hard fuel save lap, and then now they've shifted into a little bit more of a moderate fuel save sort of trim and strategy. I'm not really sure. I'm just really confused because I've never seen an entire group kind of check itself up like that with about 50 laps left to go in the race.
Yeah, as we see drivers coming on towards pit road, Brandon Trano is on towards pit road. As we speak, Henry Bennett is on towards pit road as well. So they will have to make one more pit stop after this. Brandon Trano, Broken Arrow, on towards pit road. This could well come down to, does this race stay green? Because even, Randy, if the race does stay green and the other drivers can't make it on fuel, it's a case of they're going to take a much smaller pit stop compared to the likes of Treno et al., and that could make a difference later on. But it's that whole thing. Strategists are going to be scratching their heads and working everything out right now as Challenger now leads his motor race. He's got himself past Riley Thompson.
And actually, Will, I think there's more support to the fact that these guys are fuel saving. The pace has come out of these cars again. A 41.0 for Riley Thompson, a 40.8 for Christian Challenger. And look who's at the head of the field saying he wants to unlap himself. It's the 12 of Marco Aurelio Brazil, who we've been talking about hasn't had the greatest handling race car out there on the racetrack. Suddenly he's knocking on the door of your top two saying, let me by, let me by. So I think this entire lead pack has just shifted into fuel save mode, just given the car, just the way the pace has dropped out and the way these cars are now dealing, especially the 12 car. Another driver peels onto the lane in the background. That's Simon Bryant in the 28.
Yeah, as we're on board with Brazil right now, as he, again though, that car is struggling in the dirty air. We've seen a lot of drivers struggle in the dirty air here today in the 10th annual iRacing Indy 500. I will say, Randy, this car, the way it's handling right now, reminds me more of the old IR05 compared to the DW12 and the way it's been racing.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, it doesn't have quite the aero grip that the DW12 had. And in some ways, I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. There's always been the discussions of, I know in the recent years, both in real life, of trying to get the aerodynamics and the downforce levels of the car down. I actually think having a car with higher aero is in some ways a good thing because it gives the teams and drivers more options to a wider variety and amount of conditions. But of course, that's a different discussion for another time, and these top two are going to have another lap car to deal with as Simon Bryant in the 28 will come out right in the middle of this entire group. The lap number, by the way, that we're probably looking at for the likes of Challenger, the likes of Thompson, any of these drivers that are trying to stretch it only on one more stop, I think lap 168 is the earliest you can come down pit road and feel confident about making it without having to go into super hardcore save mode. And another car hits pit road, two more actually, Rick Music and John Downing. So that's all the Sadie cars within 2 laps cycling through pit stops.
Yeah, and the way I'm looking at it, Randy, it's going to be hard even for Riley Thompson and Adam Blocker to do that, and they are the best in terms of fuel right now. Christian Challenger is 29 laps onto his stint, so at best he will pit on lap number 164, and I don't think that is going to quite be close enough. Riley Thompson, Adam Blocker, what they have had the advantage for the last couple of laps is the fact that they are not leading the group. They are actually following other drivers.
Oh, Marco Brazil in turn 3. Very close moment with, I believe that was Simon Bryant, nearly contact coming off of turn 4. And we almost got a yellow that would have shook everything up between those two.
Yeah, let's have a look then on board with Marco Brazil. That was close indeed. Round the outside of turn number 4. That deserves another look, actually. Let's just have a look as they head themselves through turn number 3 in Brazil. Again, he's struggling through turn number 4, and just round the outside he goes. But that was one of those Indy 500 heart-stopping moments.
Yeah, that was one of those moments of this is where my race comes to an end, isn't it? As we've had Riley Thompson circulate into the race lead. And you know what's ironic, Will? The fact that we're having this, like, an amazing fuel save style race here in the closing stages of an Indy 500, and we don't have some of the IndyCar fuel save specialists taking part. If this sort of race, we're missing the names Holgate, Josh Chin, and Matt Cook. Any of those 3 names, then you'd say those 3 would be the favorite. This is the exact sort of race they want to try to work out every sort of fuel advantage they could possibly get, because they would have probably been half a lap ahead of everyone by now.
Yeah, and of course Martin Miller, you could have added onto that list, but he was out early goings here today. I mean, Alex Simpson, he knows his way around a fuel-safe race, but unfortunately he was out very early on, involved in both of the first 2 cautions here today. Not directly, but he got damage in the first one to his front wing, and then just caught up to the point that he couldn't return afterwards. On board with Alex Montanelli as he comes on towards pit road to make his probably second to last pit stop. He's going to need a splash and dash from here, Randy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he could maybe try to stretch it. I think if you're Alex, you almost want to go into a bit of a fuel save strategy in case it stays green, because regardless of what happens, the yellow resets the field and you can come take a little bit of fuel for free anyway. So I think if you're Alex, I think you basically just dial back the fuel trim here and try to stretch this out as much as you can. Like we said, 33 laps is typically the reasonable number, but we know you can extend that if you fuel save really hard and really just basically limit your pace. He's going to go down a lap here through turns number 1 and 2, but that's at least what I would do. I would try to stretch this just without coming down pit road once again, as these guys circulate down the back straightaway, and this is going to be the point where we start getting curious. Can these guys stretch it out these extra couple of laps? This will be lap number 29, I believe, since we've gone back to green, maybe lap 30, and this is right around the pit stop window for a number of these drivers. And we'll say, Will, the 11 cars actually opened up a gap.
He has. Christian Challoner stayed up 1 lap longer than I thought he was going to as well. He's on to his 34th lap now. Oh, his stint is, yeah, Brandon Lichtenberg's in. From this point, the thing is, Randy, you can only really lose 1 second a lap. So you have to be doing lap times no slower than a 41.2 in order to really make the fuel save strategy work. And this is why you do it little and little, because if you start losing 2 seconds a lap at the end, it's really going to hurt you. And also, the frustration really kicks in. You can run out of fuel on the back straightaway. Challoner is actually now on towards pit road, so he's going to come in. He's going to make that pit stop on lap number 165, 166 even. So he might just be able to do it. If you do run out of fuel, you need to be at least halfway down the back straightaway in order to make it back to the start-finish line. I've done it before. I've seen it happen before, but we could end up in that situation.
He's fuel saving. I think Riley Thompson is saving fuel. He was down to 215 miles an hour down the back straightaway. He's trying to get everything out of this that he possibly can. Remember I said about lap 168 is the latest you could possibly go and potentially stretch it. He's currently on 167 and he's driving past pit entry. So it's going to be the strategy he's going for, and he's in the window. I think if you're him though, Will, you need to try to go at least one more lap, because you don't want to fuel save be in a situation where you have to mega fuel save through that final stint. You want to be able to go a little bit rich and be able to burn a bit of fuel and have the power up through those last 30 laps, and especially you want to save it so you can do that in the last couple laps.
Dare I say it, if you run out in turn number 3 and 4, caution on the racetrack. We're going to have a yellow right now as we've got ourselves slow cars. How have we stayed green? How on earth have we? There we are. There's the yellow flag. And it is Marco Brazil who's involved.
I don't see Marco actually at all. I see Christian Challoner and John Downing. Marco may have had a secondary incident, but I see Challoner and John Downing on the north end of the racetrack in 3 and 4. They were both up in the wall. Interesting moment between those two. I'd say an over-aggressive moment from the 18. Maybe not.
There's number 1. Oh, yeah, that's the first part of the incident. The Sadie Sim Autosports car coming into the wall as well. Christian Challoner hard into the safer barrier. And we need to get another look, actually, from up above. Our aerial coverage here today brought to you by And One Design, official graphics partner of Racesport TV. And I'm going to pause it there. And let's just have a look as, well, I mean, John Downing wasn't down below the white line. I would call that a racing incident, because, I mean, Challoner was pinching a little bit. Downing wasn't running directly on the white line. Both drivers involved. And then Marco Brazil was just like, let's go and have a spin.
Yeah, I think so. So Marco had a bit of a secondary incident there. He caught the curb, I think, trying to avoid. I think he was so focused on not hitting the cars to his right that he just sort of lost track of where the inside curb was on the left-hand side. But, in some ways, Will, I almost wonder if that's a bit of Christian Challoner's inexperience. We talked about the fact that he's not an IndyCar regular. I mean, he kind of missed a turning point to turn 3, and I think he got a little bit scared by the Sadie car down on the inside, but he didn't give Downing enough room, which of course meant that Downing was always going to track out into him. So I think, honestly, that might be just a little bit of Challoner's sort of inexperience, because that's the sort of situation, I think, if you're Challoner, you always let that spot go with this amount of time left in the race.
Yeah, we've got a lot of drivers on pit road this time by. Brandon Traino leads the field on towards pit road.
Not Riley Thompson, interestingly enough, your race leader.
He'd only just come on towards pit road. He came on towards pit road at the point yellow came out. Combine that, Randy, with the 2 laps they're going to save through the fuel. Traino comes out second place, then Blocker, Ellis, Constantini, Lichtenberg, your top 5 out of pit road. But you consider Riley Thompson, I mean, he's timed that one to perfection, but now he can't rely on an alternate strategy because everyone has got fuel to the end.
Yeah, everyone does, and now that's the big question mark. If you're Riley Thompson, can you stretch this out? And, well, not can you stretch this out, but do you have the pace to keep up with those Broken Arrow cars and the likes of Traino and Blocker and Constantini? And, you know, Lichtenberg, I think, will now somehow find himself shuffled into the 4th spot. Funny how those things have worked themselves out, but it's about to get really aggressive up here at the head of the field. And we've been talking, Will, for pretty much the entire race about those up near the front. Is Riley Thompson getting shuffled behind these guys?
Yes. Maybe. I am very confused. Remember, actually, 2011, Monica Clara Brand had an issue just like this. When there is an issue with pit stops and something happened. Remember the fact that the yellow flag came out just as Riley Thompson was hitting pit road, Randy? I think he came on a split second after the yellow flag. This is just like Monica Clara Brand back in 2011. Heartbreak for Riley Thompson.
I mean, he's not done yet, of course. I mean, but man, that's a disaster situation for Riley. I feel so bad for because that's just something totally out of his control. And I think you're right. That's the only thing I can think of, unless he somehow sped when he was trying to exit. Because he wouldn't get a black flag for exiting a closed pit. It would have been on entry. So, yeah. Man, oh man, what a disaster. And of course, there's no way you can like stop with the way you're going to be coming on towards pit road. So disaster there for the 11, as everyone's fuel saving a little bit, because of course we are just on the outside rung. But you 28, 29 laps is what we'll have to the end here.
I'm just trying to see if the yellow flag, we've got the light. The light is green as it comes. Oh, yes, it's just right. If we just cycle it back 1 second, and you'll see here, Randy, I'm just going to show it to you again. On board, I'm going to stop here. We're going to need to do it one more time, but let's pause it.
The lights are out on the pace car, so.
I just want to highlight for you very quickly, Randy, just there as he's coming on towards pit road, the light turned yellow.
Absolute disaster situation for him then. That's going to be a heartbreaking moment. He's not out of it yet, but he restarts 9th, and he's got 8 cars he has to try to work his way around, as they're going to be getting a restart here inside of 30 laps to go. And Brandon Traino at the head of the field, and notably the Broken Arrow and the ERT Alliance is broken up a little bit by the 19 of Adam Blocker.
Yep, so there's your top 8. Traino from Blocker, Ellis Jr., Constantini, Lichtenberg, Bennett, Stouffer, and Music are your top 8. The race leader coming into this caution all the way down in 9th because he just pitted a little bit after the caution flag came out. But we're back to green flag racing here in the 10th annual iRacing Indy 500. And Traino leads the field down in towards turn number 1 once again. But, well, down towards the rear of your field, you got yourself Thompson already up into P number 8. I think the fire has been lit behind the wheel of that number 11 machine, Randy.
Oh, and look at the fire at the head of the field. The 19 of Adam Blocker to the inside. The 2 of Kevin Ellis Jr. up the middle. Brandon Traino is going to get freight trained, and Adam Blocker is going to make a move to just about pick up the race lead. Or can that ERT number 2 car keep the momentum up top? Adam Blocker to the point off of 4. But now Brandon Traino has a run. They're going to be 3 wide for the lead again into 1.
Wow, it's all picking up here at IMS with less than 30 laps to go. And you can see Blocker now on the inside line. Traino going round the outside in towards turn number 2. We're at the business end now of this race, and it seems to be that these drivers, now they've got that last tank of fuel, Randy, they are fighting for every position.
They're starting to calm down just a little bit. Not three wide in towards turn 3. Blocker pushes up the racetrack a little bit, nearly gets into Brandon Trano. And look at this gaggle of cars, 2 by 2 by 2, towards in there in the background. Brandon Trano to the inside of Adam Blocker for the race lead. And here comes that 2 car of Kevin Ellis Jr. Does he shove it 3 abreast? Answer is going to be no. And now Chris Stouffer's on the outside, and Riley Thompson is already backing into this lead group. He drives right around the outside of Michele Constantini on the north end of the racetrack.
Wow, let's go on board with Christopher, shall we? As we head ourselves down the back straightaway once again. You can see the ERT duo trying to help each other out a little bit. Down as on the outside, it's Adam Blocker going to take Christopher along the outside line with them. They're 2 by 2 as they head themselves down towards 4. Once again, they're 3 wide behind them actually as well. So this is not going to calm down. Look at Blocker go down to the inside line there, Randy.
Oh, Kevin Ellis Jr. Sorry, there's just so much going on, and Will, I have to say, I think these guys need to tone it down just a little bit. We only have about 12 cars still on the lead lap. 10 in this lead group, and these guys at the head of the field need to calm down just a little bit. There's still 25 laps to go. Then they're racing as if they're coming to 2 to go. Stouffer, there's not a lineup there. Kevin Ellis Jr. slicing and dicing back and forth as well. I have a feeling we might be in a situation, Will, where the driver who is most patient might be able to win this thing because these guys are going so crazy. I feel like there's no way we're not going to get a yellow.
Adam Blocker, Brandon Trano both come so close at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway before, only to have their hearts broken. They are battling right now for the race lead. You got Trano in the red and white car on the inside. You got Blocker on the outside. Stouffer and Ellis Jr. going side by side behind. Stouffer so close to the wall on the exit of 1.
And Stouffer, I think, had contact. The right part of his wing is broken, and he's getting freight trained. The 20 cars race for the win is done, I believe. The 2 car of Kevin Ellis Jr., I see his end plate slightly bent as well. Could that be terminal damage on the ERT number 2 machine? Still fighting for the race lead.
Yeah, actually, it happened before they even made the turning into turn number 1 for Stouffer. We're going to get another look on board in case you missed it. Right about now, he just hits a wall, just trying to get that car angled for turning, and he hits it in a straight line. So Stouffer on pit road, his dreams of winning the iRacing Indy 500 are over, and Michele Constantini is going slow as well right now in the number 9 car.
He got into, I believe it was the 11 machine on the outside. It was Riley Thompson through turn number 1. They both just pinch each other, in the 11 car made hard contact in the inside wall. Riley Thompson's day is done as well. We do not get a yellow because he was off the racing surface, but I talked about it, Will. You can't be over aggressive just because there's 25 laps to go. The way this draft works, you're always going to be bunched together. Your race leaders go 3 abreast in towards turn 1 once again, and we've already seen 3 or 4 cars as lead pack get bit because they just didn't want to calm down for the last 20 lap run as the 19 and the 2 make contact.
Oh my word, Kevin Ellis Jr., Adam Blocker making contact, and this is going to allow Brandon Trano to take the inside line and go to the race lead with less than 25 laps of this race to go. Wow, what a crazy few laps we've had since the restart here, but Brandon Trano now leads this motor race. Kevin Ellis Jr. right behind him, and the gloves here at this point, Randy, are off.
Yeah, they definitely are. I knew this last 30 laps was going to be intense, but I didn't think that all last 30 laps was going to be like the last 2 laps typically are, as they work through 1 and 2 and down the back straightaway on lap number 179. And with the little bit of attrition we've seen, Will, they've calmed down just a little bit. Trano's going to get a run on Ellis and take the lead right back. But look who's starting to lurk in the background and work their way forward. Brendan Lichtenberg in the 17 is another broken arrow car. Henry Bennett's not far behind. The likes of Rick Music and Simon Bryant, they've managed their race well, and they now find themselves in the top 10 just off the lead group. And Michele Constantini was able to avoid major damage, and now he's working through the Sadie cars. He gets around Simon Bryant into 1.
Yeah, it's worth noting this race has never finished under yellow. So we've always had a green flag finish here in the iRacing Indy 500, but we've got a number of drivers, your top 7, all with a shot with sim racing immortality right now. Ellis Jr. leads from Adam Blocker, Brandon Trano in 3rd place. What you do see, I think, is just Brandon Lichtenberg holding back just enough for the time being, Randy, in case something does happen with these top 3.
Yep, and I think that's smart. And you see Blocker goes down to the inside for the race lead. Treno thought for about half a second of making it 3 abreast, doesn't quite do it though, and the 19 car will circulate into that race lead through turns number 1 and 2. Lichtenberg still just chilling back there in that 4th spot. Now Treno has a run. He's going to fight for second with Ellis Jr. and might just, no, he won't be close enough surely to make a lunge for the race lead as the 19 will hold it in towards 3.
Yep, and you just see a nice easy pass there made by Brandon Treno over Kevin Ellis Jr. Now on board of Brandon Treno on the exit of turn number 4. He's going to try and make the move over Adam Blocker as they come down in towards turn number 1. The answer is going to be quite clearly, yes, he will. Brandon Treno back to the point. Most importantly, Randy, he led it at the line.
Yeah, and that's what we want to be talking about. Is in the background, I see Michele Constantini. I think he was clear. From my angle, it looked like it was much, much tighter, but we talked about that a lot in the 2017 race. We haven't seen really too big of disadvantages in terms of pace. And you see the snaking working down the back straightaway here at Indianapolis. Oh, Adam Blocker, a late move in towards turn 3. He's going to lunge his way into the race lead, so you can make those late moves, but you want to work on that run off of turn 4 down towards the front straightaway in towards start finish, because oftentimes the car that wins this race is the one that's quickest from turn 4 to start finish.
Blocker led the lap, I think, there, but it was by minutiaes and 49 1,000ths of a second as they came past the start finish line that last time by. Still a lot of racing to go here. 18 laps of this race to go. Battling going on all over the field. Henry Bennett, Michele Constantini, they're scrapping at it. Of course, they race so often in the classic IndyCar Series here on RaceSpot TV. Bennett is not able to make the move over Constantini right now, so let's go back to your top 3 once again as they head themselves down towards the start-finish line, Randy. Blocker taking the defensive line here in towards turn number 1, and he's going to not lead the lap that time by. It was Treno who led.
So these guys stay side by side. And Will, you talk about the fact that there's still a lot of racing left to go as we're approaching the 15 lap to go mark, inside of 20 to go. One of the big talking points in this car is tire management. And these guys that are being over aggressive are working the tires really, really hard. Compare that to what you see in the background as Treno's going to take the lead away from Blocker into 3 once again. You look at the likes of Lichtenberg and even Michele Constantini, who's been patient but is done well to work his way through that field without being over aggressive. They may be in a situation where they have the tire advantage on the closing laps of this race because they've not been in these crazy 3 wide moves like we almost see once again.
Yeah, and Ellis Jr. just backs out of that one into turn number 1 as there's your leading pack. We've only got ourselves, by the way, 10 drivers left remaining in this race. So attrition has been very high here, especially after this last race restart. But everyone, apart from Marco Brazil and maybe Alex Mortadelli, has a shot of winning this race. That was so close between Adam Blocker and Brandon Treno. They were inside each other's wheel arches there as they head themselves through turn number 3. Ellis Jr. has got the run out of turn number 4 when he tried to make it 3 wide into turn number 1. Not just yet.
And you know what's difficult about this with the 19 of Adam Blocker is he's out there all by himself, because the Broken Arrow and ERT cars that run 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, there's a technical alliance there, and you know they're probably going to work together a little bit. If there's any car they're going to leave out to dry, it's going to be that blue number 19. So Adam Blocker is fighting off 4 cars for this race win as they roll through turn 3. Then now it's going to be Treno who takes that lead right back. Kevin Ellis Jr. can't quite do anything of it. Blocker will try to work the clean air and get a run down the front straightaway. Don't think he'll quite get it, but he might go for it as aggressive as he's been.
Yeah, I thought he was going to try and take the Takuma Sato line down in towards turn number 1. He doesn't. He goes around the outside instead as they stay side by side on the exit of turn number 1 through the short chute down in towards turn 2 once again. But Blocker not able to complete the pass. They're going to stay side by side on the run down this back straightaway. Blocker is ahead now by half a car length as they come down in towards turn number 3, but he's on the outside line, and Blocker's got to be careful here, of course, because he could be hung out to dry here if Kevin Ellis Jr. gets a run out of corner number 4. So Blocker stays side by side. This could be Ellis's opportunity, I think, here, Andy.
Could very well be. He's got to run. Will he think about forcing to get 3 wide? No, he trying to look to the outside, but there's no lane out there. There's just a wall. So they're going to stay side by side for a full lap for the race lead as the 19 still holds on that second lane in that blue power slide number 19 car. And now they will get themselves single file, but only for about 2 seconds as Adam Blocker wants the point and worked his way down to the inside and towards 3.
This is why this is the greatest spectacle in all of sim racing. Side by side for almost a lap. Blocker goes to the race lead here. We're going to come towards 12 laps to go. Also in battles, Michele Constantini and Brandon Lichtenberg. They're scrapping at it for 4th place right now. I think Constantini's just trying to find where that draft, that slipstream air is here, Randy.
And it's important to talk about. It's tight for the race lead once again between Blocker and Treno. We always talk about with this new Dallara IR18 chassis. We've seen it in the real world. We see it in the sim as well. The top 2 can often slipstream with one another and really do this sort of leapfrog and swapping in the race lead and being tight. Those running 3rd, 4th, 5th in line, they have a little bit more aero push to work with and they can't quite get the rotation. And we've seen 3rd, 4th, 5th in line here really stall out and the laps count has just gone up and up and up, and it's really just been the 19 and the 3 who have really been aggressive, but they may be just being calm as well, who, by the way, Simon Bryant, Henry Bennett, and Rick Music, I think they're just letting those 5 out ahead of them just scrap. I don't think they have the pace to keep up regardless. They're just hoping for some disaster 5-car pileup that hands them podium positions.
Liam Quinn still has the fastest lap of the day. That's a 39.355. However, Quinn, unfortunately, is out of the race. Blocker down to the inside once again in towards turn number 3. And Treno's going to give him the position, give him the line there as they work in towards turn 4. Coming towards 10 laps to go in this event. Henry Bennett, by the way, still battling out with Simon Bryant. That is for 6th and 7th place on the track.
Thing is, though, that Bennett hasn't really been doing much battling. He's just sort of sitting there. He's going to look at it in towards turn 1, and they might swap the positions, but because they're so far back, they're basically doing the same thing the leaders are doing, and that's just swapping the lead lap on lap. Blocker out of the groove through turn 2. This is going to check him up a little bit. He should be able to slipstream up towards the number 3 car once again, but Ellis Jr. is still there. And look at 4th and 5th. Lichtenberg and Constantini, they've lost a ton of ground, it seems like, that trip through the racetrack, but the 19 now all over the rear wing of Brandon Treno once again.
It looks as though that the gap between Lichtenberg and Constantini, they have lost themselves 7/10 of a second. We could be down to a 3-horse race here. They're going to almost go 3 wide into 1.
What a move there by Adam Blocker. He ran the Takuma Sato line. Also remember Helio Castroneves, I believe in the 2007 race, made a miracle move right up against the pit wall as they work down the back straightaway. Here comes Brandon Treno once again. Now I just have to wonder, is there any lap traffic for these guys? I don't think so. Brandon Treno is going to take that lead back though in towards turn 3.
As it stands, it is a 3-horse race here for the 10th annual iRacing Indy 500. Brandon Treno, Adam Blocker, and Kevin Ellis Jr. The reason I say that is the gap between 3rd and 4th place has increased now to 7/10 of a second. Kevin Ellis Jr. is starting to get feisty down to the inside of Adam Blocker in towards turn number 1. Cannot make the move complete though.
Yeah, Blocker now is really in a difficult situation running in second because Kevin Ellis Jr. wants to bring it in, but Kevin, I think, may have been a little over-aggressive there into 1 because look at the amount of time he's lost. The 19 of Adam Blocker will get the run and make the move in towards turn 3, but just as I say that, Ellis able to get a big slipstream will draft right back up to the tail end of his teammate as Michele Constantini, he's done well to even the pace out with these top couple of cars. Brendan Lichtenberg has fallen back just a little bit, though, in that 5th spot. Here comes Treno once again.
Yeah, on board of Treno in towards turn number 1. Going to make that move. Easy complete there over Blocker. But Kevin Ellis Jr. has fallen back to 6/10 of a second right now. Well, on one hand, what could happen is Michele Constantini in the number 9 car could end up catching the draft of Kevin Ellis Jr., making it a 4-horse race once again. But Kevin Ellis Jr. is now 7/10 of a second back. That's almost too much with 7 laps to go here, Randy.
Yeah, and the problem is that these top two, they've cycled into the leapfrog that we've seen all race long, that they're just swapping this back and forth. They're not really fighting too hard just yet because we're still a couple of laps out from the point where a caution ends this race. So they're not going to be over aggressive with each other just yet, now that the pressure is really dialed off. And you see that from Adam Blocker. He's not being over aggressive with the 3 car in the closing moments as they work down the back straightaway. Now, though, in the next couple laps, we're going to reach the point where a caution will end this race. And then at that point, you're likely going to see these guys not willing to give that lead up, because if a caution flies, whoever's in the lead will win it.
Yep, and that magic marker will be at the end of the next lap. Remember, last year we had ourselves a 1-lap shootout to the end of this event. Right now, it is the case of Adam Blocker leading, Brandon Traino second, but Traino doesn't lead the lap there, but he goes down the inside in towards turn number 1. 5 laps. 12.5 miles around the racetrack, and look how close they get through turn number 2.
I think Brandon Traino had better be lucky we don't have punctures yet, because the left front end plate of Blocker's car, I think, clipped the right rear tire of Traino. The 19 car up the inside in towards turn 3, and look who's closed the gap. Kevin Ellis Jr. in the 2 is there and part of this battle, but does he have the car that can do it? We know that Dirty Air there in that 3rd spot is immeasurable and has been terrible for drivers all race long. It's always been the top 2 at the head of a line that can really be dominant. 4 laps to go.
Kevin Ellis Jr. has closed back up to within 3/10 of a second of this duo, and look how close there the two were. Traino going right in front of Adam Blocker as they work through turn number 2. Blocker, we're on board of him right now. Less than 10 miles of this race to go as Blocker goes down to the inside line as they come down towards turn number 3. Your top toe, look at that. Kevin Ellis Jr. almost tried to slide you into 3 that time by Randy.
I don't think he was going to try to slide the 3 of Brandon Traino. That would have been a bit over aggressive, but I think regardless, he drove it too hard into 3. He was right on the rear wing of Brandon Traino, and then look how much he had to check it up. 3 to go as Traino's up the inside, and a yellow will end the race from here.
Yep, so it is now a case of, remember, this has never finished under yellow flag conditions before. Brandon Traino looking to win his first broadcasted iRacing Indy 500. He's been so successful at this track before, but he lost a race a couple of years ago due to some poor strategy. Adam Blocker in the Powerslide Motorsports number 19 machine. They get so close on the apex of turn 3 and 4 there. Adam Blocker, though, also looking to win Powerslide Motorsports first Indy 500. 5 miles to go, Randy.
And they are side by side for the top 2. Kevin Ellis Jr. slipstreams right up to the back of Adam Blocker, but he just can't deal with the dirty air through the entry in the center of 1, off of 2, and down the back straightaway for the penultimate time. Brandon Traino is just hugging that inside line, not giving Adam Blocker's number 19 an inch in towards turn 3 for the second to final time, and Blocker stuck on the outside. Ellis is there. Will we get the 3-horse battle on the white flag lap? It looks like it off of turn 4, white flag at the yard of bricks, and Traino's going to lead lap 199, but who will lead lap number 200?
Here we go then, white flag out, 1 more lap to go, 3 drivers in it for the 2019 iRacing Indy 500. Traino has the inside line through turn number 1 and through turn number 2. Blocker is going to have to fall behind if he wants to make that slipstream work. We're on board right now with Adam Blocker as the defensive line being taken by Brandon Traino as they head themselves down towards turn number 3 for the final time. Kevin Ellis Jr. is there or thereabouts, but it looks as though it's going to be a photo finish one more time here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Traino on the inside line, Blocker on the outside line, and it looks as though Brandon Traino will win the 2019 iRacing Indy 500 by 13/1,000ths of a second. The dream has finally come true for Brandon Traino after coming oh so close so many times here at Indianapolis. He finally wins his first ever iRacing Indy 500 feature race, and the gap, the margin at the end was 13/1,000ths of a second. What a run we've had. And well, Randy, that is exactly the same finishing margin as we had exactly 1 year ago.
What a finish there in the closing moments, and what a moment for that Broken Arrow group, Will, because they've been really the dominant group at the Speedway for a number of years. They won the 2016 race, they won the 2017 race, 2018 didn't quite go their way, but Broken Arrow finds their way back to the top step of the podium here in Indianapolis, and Brandon Trano, he is going to burn him down there on the yard of bricks here on the front straightaway.
Yes. So Brandon Trano, he has come close before. 2018, well, he wasn't there to take part, but in 2017, he was fighting for every little bit. He came home second to Matt Pavelski, and he swore on that day that one day he will return and he will try and claim back that Indy 500 crown, and he has got it. Brandon Trano and Broken Arrow win their third race here, Randy, in 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely amazing drive there by Brandon Trano. Really the class of the field, I think him and Kevin and Michele, who ends up in fourth. They were out there in front all day, but well done as well from Adam Blocker, coming from 25th on the grid up in towards second. And as far as finishes go, that will cycle out second closest of all time. Of course, the 2015 race, still the closest at 8 thousandths of a second. This one, the official iRacing timing is telling me 12 hundredths of a second, which is 1,000th of a second closer than last year's race at 13 100ths of a second. But that has to be a kick in the teeth as well, Will, to Power Slide. That's 2 years in a row that Power Slide just comes up that little bit short, with Blocker this year and Kinsella last year.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know, there's always heartbreak. One driver has to have the heartbreak, and this year, again, it is going to be Power Slide. They came so close. In the last 2 years, they have lost out on the Indy 500 by a combined time of 25 1,000ths of a second. Here's a look then from up above through our aerial coverage brought to you by And1 Design as they come towards the yard of bricks at the very end. Look how close it's got to be between them. And, I mean, it looks as though that they were almost side by side for a moment, but then it's Brandon Trano. This was coming into the white flag lap even. They were literally side by side, neck and neck, onto the white flag lap. But for Blocker, I'd almost say, Rand, if he just throttled back a tiny bit, he could have then tried to take the inside line, but he could have got the draft. But Trano was defending that inside line the entire way around the racetrack in that final lap.
Well, and not to mention, it's easy to say that, but you had Kevin Ellis Jr. not very far back. And there is a very real possibility that if you lift out of that, then the two car will just take that apex away and make it a essentially Broken Arrow Apex Alliance top two. So I don't think there's much more that Blocker really could have done there. I think that if he lifts out a little bit, he might set himself up potentially for a better run, but there is a huge risk as well that he loses that second spot all in one shoot.
You've got to give credit, though, to Power Slide. They really did come here today and give the Broken Arrow Apex Racing Team, Evolution Racing Team, big, large alliance, a run for their money. And this is what I love about this race, Randy. The fact that, yes, you get the big teams. Yes, the big teams come along. But what we've seen here today, Broken Arrow Evolution Racing Team, Apex Racing Team, didn't have it their own way. We didn't see the Brazil Alliance dominate that many people thought they were going to do coming into this race. Power Slide, they showed up, and they showed up well.
They did. They really did represent themselves very, very well. I think they were somewhat the victim of circumstance just with some of those incidents. And actually, I mean, you look at some of the incidents that happened in this race, Will, it was a lot of the Broken Arrow cars and the ERT and Apex cars. They were actually really fortunate that they all sort of missed a lot of the incidents that happened. It was a lot of other teams, the likes of Sadie, the likes of Power Slide, the likes of Team Talent that got caught up in the incidents over the course of the race. Some of those caused early, and then as well the couple incidents we saw in those closing moments at the head of the field. And it's it was a bit of attrition at that point, and Blocker was very much fighting an uphill battle, but it was a fun one to watch there at the end of that race.
Let's have a look then at your final race results here from the 10th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. So after 200 laps of racing, Brandon Traino gets Broken Arrow's third win in 4 years and finally breaks his own personal curse, winning by 13 one-thousandths of a second over Powerslide Motorsports' Adam Blocker. Powerslide coming home second place for the second year in a row. Evolution Racing Teams, Kevin Ellis Jr. coming home in third place, with Apex Racing Teams, Michele Constantini in fourth, Brendan Lichtenberg for Broken Arrow coming home to round out your top 5. Simon Bryant and Rick Music give 2 Sadie Sim Autosports drivers positions inside the top 10. They come home P6 and P7. The second Powerslide Motorsports driver in the field, Henry Bennett, comes home in 7th. Marco Aurelio Brazil, after starting on pole position here today in the KRYF Brazil Alliance car, rounds out in 9th. And Alex Montanelli rounds out your top 10. 9 drivers finishing on the lead lap here today. Attrition has been a big thing. The final caution of the day, taking out, the last portion of the race even, taking out Riley Thompson and Chris Stouffer within a lap of each other. Riley Thompson and the team TDR with Team Talent Car having an incident, hitting the outside wall, putting his race to bed. Chris Stouffer hitting the wall down in towards turn 1 before he actually even hit the apex into that first corner. One tiny mistake put him out of the running. Christian Chandler, the number 1 car, had a fantastic race, of course, the eNASCAR Big Antifreeze Series car, until we got to 33 laps to go, and he ended up being involved in the caution that brought out our last yellow flag period of the day. John Downing, 14th place, Mercedes Sim Autosports, and then last lap Motorsports didn't have a good run here today. Chad Simpson, 15th, and John Goke in 16th place. Dylan Freckleton in 17th place, J.R. Borderema in 18th, Silvio Roberto Sanchez for Brazil Alliance in 19th, and Christian Steele, he pulled that car off track, saying it just didn't have any pace in that race car. There's the remainder of the results then up on your screen. Randy, what a day it's been. The 10th annual iRacing Indy 500 delivers another close finish, and this time we did it over 30 odd laps compared to the 1 lap dash we had this time last year.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a crazy race all the way through. A lot of incidents, a number of incidents that did not bring out cautions. I think we only end up, I think the official count will be 3. We had 2 in the early goings, and then that caution on lap number with about 30 to go. Thereabouts, I think will be about the official count. So I think 3 yellows, which I think ties least all time. I'm curious what this will be like for the actual race time. How does 2.5 hours sound, Will? 2 hours, 30 minutes, 30 seconds for fastest race all time. You're generally the one with that information.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I am going to do is I'm going to have a look through. It's faster than the 2016 race. I can tell you that one for one. I'm going to have a look through that. In the meanwhile, we have got Brandon Traino here, who has finally achieved the dream of winning an iRacing Indy 500. Randy, you have got him. Talking to him right now.
Brandon, during the pre-race show that we did just what seems like hours ago now, days ago nearly, there was a little bit of rubbing of the salt in the wound from that 2016 race that Matt Pavelski able to pull off. I think it's only fitting that after Will kind of ribbed you for that, you come home and you win this one here today. How's it feel? You can finally drink the milk.
Oh, it feels amazing. I'm still shaking after that whole run. That was insanely intense. Adam ran me good and hard and clean, and I'm just finally glad I got this win under my belt.
And the end of this race, I want to talk about the start of that final run like you talked about. We saw a big shift. We saw a lot of people trying to work some fuel strategy, maybe try to stretch to the end on just a single tank of fuel. And then we sort of saw the yellow with about 30 laps to go right comfortably in the fuel window. And then everyone shifted from this single file running, just working laps, trying to work the strategy, to crazy 3x3 at the head of the field. How is that trying to adjust to? And do you think to a certain extent a lot of that crazy fighting for a lot of those drivers was coming a bit too early with 20-30 laps to go?
Yeah, it was interesting to see everybody kind of just let it all loose there at the end. I certainly didn't expect everybody to start running as crazily as they did. I figured we'd run some laps and save some tires, but in all honesty, I'm kind of glad because it spread the field out. Everybody burned their tires up and just left it down to, a 3-car race there at the end with Kevin.
Well, after 2 hours, 30 minutes, 30.194 seconds, we're still looking to see what the actual race time is like for maybe fastest all time. But how are you feeling in the car? Because I know that must have been a race of intensity. A couple of big incidents in the early goings that you were sort of around in the early going, and then you guys got yourself out in the lead early. I mean, how difficult is it shifting from going, what was it, like 150, 160 laps with the likes of you and Kevin and Michele just at the head of the field, just sort of cruising single file, and then having to set up for that crazy run at the end? Because that surely was a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah, a long green flag run was good. It allowed everybody to get into their own rhythm. I know I was a little jittery at the start, starting back there in the middle of the field. But once we got that long green flag run, I got in a rhythm, all the jitters and all that stuff went away. Obviously, they came back there at the end because that was a little more intense than I think I wanted it to be. But no, it was a good race. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss of words right now. If I finally got the Indy 500.
You definitely did. And Brandon, congratulations on another amazing race victory here on RaceSpot TV, and probably the most important one, I would definitely say, for you. Before we let you go, who gets it done for that number 3 Broken Arrow car, who is a team you guys find yourself back on the top step here at Indianapolis?
Yeah, just as usual, all the guys at Broken Arrow, they worked really hard this week. And then I can't think of Kevin and Steele's team, but they did a lot of work too, and Michele and
Apex Evolution
AJ
Racing
Burton.
Team.
Yep, those guys. We've always worked well with them. Always put good setups together, and like I said in the previous interview, we felt really good about this setup, and it showed. We were able to maneuver traffic really well. Straight line speed, toe speed, whatever you wanted, we had it. But just kudos to those guys. They worked really hard for the past couple weeks.
There he is. Brandon Traino takes the victory in the 2019 iRacing Indianapolis 500, which keeps the 10-year trend alive of a new winner every single year. And Traino will join Justin Dalsant, Tim Doyle, Young O, Brody Kostecki, Tim Holgate, Cam Stark, Matt Pavelski, Christopher Demerit, and Joshua Chin as winners of the iRacing Indianapolis 500. So congratulations once again to you, Brandon, and you have fun doing some celebrating.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Well, I've got an update for you, Randy. 2:30:30 is the fastest broadcasted iRacing Indy 500 of all time. It is not the fastest top split of all time. That is actually the 4th race in 2016, which is a time of 2 hours, 26 minutes, 49 seconds, the only Indy 500 to ever average over 200 miles an hour. But it is still the fastest broadcasted race that we've had, with only 3 cautions, and the longest green flag run in iRacing Indy 500 history.
Yeah, that was a long run, definitely, and it definitely felt like it. So, there was a lot of like, okay, there's single file, but I mean, wow, that's amazing that it's easily the quickest broadcasted race, and even then, only 4 minutes out from the quickest race all time. I mean, I think that's mostly going to cut. Basically, 1 caution is the difference there.
Yeah, second place here today is the number 19 Power Slide Motorsports car of Adam Blocker. Adam, in the last 2 years, your team has come agonizingly close to winning this event. 13 1,000ths of a second here today. Talk us through the heartbreak.
Well, I'm not really sure what I could have done different, because Traino and I were fighting really hard the last 25 laps. I don't think either one of us had a lot of tires left. If I was at 4-1 on my ARBs, I was like driving off the right rear, like sliding through the corners, and then if I was 5-1, then I was understeering. So, and then every time I got behind him, it was a struggle. I almost hit the wall every time I got behind him, just trying to get a run. So I thought the inside might be the way to go in 3 and 4 in the last lap, but the thing I was worried about inside in 1 and 2 because 1 and 2 didn't have a lot of grip, and I was having to lift, especially in 1 when I got down there. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I had gotten a bigger run off of turn 4, maybe I could have done it, but I was just trying to keep swapping with them to make sure we didn't get deadlocked and I didn't get stuck back there, and I was also trying to make sure Kevin didn't get by me, because if the two of them had gotten up there, I would have had no chance. So,
well, the race here today, it seemed to be a mixture of frantic racing at the beginning, a very long middle stint when everyone kind of got themselves their feet, and then frantic racing at the end. That last 30 odd laps, ever since we went green again, just how chaotic was it for you?
Well, the whole race was chaotic. I mean, the beginning I started the back. I think the first caution, I got caught by the car spinning, and I damaged my front wing on him, and it spun, but I didn't hit anything. Got it fixed, then worked my way through the field. Then by the time that long green run came, I went from 15th to like 4th or 5th by the end of it, mainly by staying out longer than most guys and picking up the tow from cars ahead. And then, yeah, and then we had a crazy stint where at one point there was a yellow at the end of that long green run, and I realized that I could pit because everyone else was stuck behind the pace car for some reason, so I could pit and get a free stop. And I had fuel to make it on one stop. We were all fuel saving. There was me, Riley Thompson, a couple other guys. And I would have won if it would have went green there, but we got a yellow. And then, yeah, the last laps were crazy because at any time, I think I was worried that at any time we would become deadlocked, and no one we wouldn't be able to pass each other, because that's what's been happening the last couple of days. And then, so I was always wanting to lead because at any time I was worried that, might not be able to get back past him. So,
well, as we have a look there at the Indianapolis city in the background, before we let you go, Adam, shout out sponsors and also what's next for you this year.
Well, first, I have to thank Powerslide Motorsports. Yeah, we've definitely come really long ways as a team. We won the first 2 non-broadcasted top splits this year, and also P2 here is pretty good. We were struggling in qualifying all week, but we got it together there at the very end. Got a few cards in. Yeah, so definitely want to thank Henry Bennett, Andrew Kinsella, Brian Carey, Chris Stouffer, Tony Schoen, and all the rest of the guys over at Powerslide. The work we do is, yeah, it's just really incredible to be part of that team. So I definitely want to thank Trano for the good racing there at the end. And then for the rest of the year, I'll be doing IndyCar Road stuff, official, and Lionheart IndyCar. So,
well, thank you very much there, Adam Blocker, coming home second place here today. Going to move it over down to your third place driver. It's Kevin Ellis Jr. stood by with Randy.
Yep, I'm stood by with the Apex Racing UK driver running in the Evolution Racing Team colors here today. Kevin, I'm sure that had to be a frustrating 20-30 laps for you, because it seemed like you were just stuck there with the dirty air in third and couldn't really make anything happen. Talk me through it.
Yeah, it was tough there. Tried kind of mixing it up on the restart and getting involved, but once Chris Stouffer got up there and kind of got me involved with him, the battle for third and fourth, it allowed Trano and Blocker to kind of get set up at the front there, and I was just kind of left stuck behind, and then got a little bit of front wing damage off Stouffer as well. So as soon as that happened, I knew I was kind of waiting on the accident from Trano and Blocker. It looked likely for a few laps there, but now the two of them raced really clean, and yeah, I just couldn't quite get close enough, and it seems I'm destined to never win one of these, but I'll see. I'll keep on coming back until I get one, I think. So it was close, but not close enough today.
And now we always talk about some of the new teams that work their way through, or some of the let's say, I don't want to say non-Indy regulars, as you guys have really kind of gotten a lot more involved with the Dallara and the IR18 in general. But of course, you guys at Apex, this is in general the very difficult day with the VRS Endurance Championship happening at the same time. How difficult is it for you guys trying to double dip and not only make sure you have good runs here, but good runs at Imola as well?
Yeah, today was a tough day. Alex having to run both in the same day, that's always a tough call and a tough ask of anyone. But especially with what went down in the VRS GT race, we didn't have the best of luck over there and didn't get a great finish. So coming over here where I was kind of on the back foot, I guess. But we knew we had a great car. Treno and everyone at Broken Arrow and everyone else within the i5G group just did a great job with the car. So although it was a tough day, the car was just so good that we could get up there and mix it up with those top guys. And yeah, I think it was good to see Treno win. If one of our cars didn't win today, we would have been absolutely devastated, and it looked pretty certain it was going to be at least one of us there around about the middle part. But Blocker drove a great race at the end there to get up and get involved with us and mix it up there. So congrats to him.
Well, thanks for joining us, Kevin, and congratulations on a podium finish here in 2019. Before we let you go, who gets it done for that Apex Racing UK / Evolution Racing Team / Broken Arrow number 2?
Yeah, all the guys in the i5G group, Treno especially, he did so much work on the car. It drove great. He did a ton of laps there, so yeah, definitely the deserving winner from our group. And of course all the guys on Apex Racing Team, Evolution Racing Team, the sponsors, SDK Gaming, Logitech, Speed Cafe, and whoever the last one is, I've completely forgotten. I always do this, I get 3 out of 4 and then I forget the last one.
Yeah, well, you need to take a page out of Mitchell de Jong's book and just have like a little list on a notepad on your phone. And
yeah, I need to pin it in the Apex Discord, that's what we'll do. I'll need to pin it. I'll get that last one.
There you go. Shout outs to the Apex Discord as well, as Kevin Ellis Jr. comes home in 3rd, and his teammate will round out actually the 4th spot, Will, with Michele Constantini in the number 9.
Yeah, it was 4th place for you here today, Mr. Constantini, in that Apex Racing UK machine. Not quite close enough to go for the victory, but you were only a second back after 200 hard laps of racing. Talk us through your event.
Yeah, it's been a great race. Long green stint in the middle, which saw us being very, very strong at the front with Trainer and Kev and me in 3rd. So I always try to stay back and not stay in the draft to maybe have a better tires. And then at the end, Yellow messed up our race a little bit, and yeah, with the late caution there, then I had a little bit of a contact with Riley. I had to recover quite a few positions in the last 15 laps, so that's basically the reason I was not in range to try and get the victory here, but a great event nonetheless.
Well, you and the Apex Racing Team, Evolution Racing Team, Broken Arrow, have been dominant for so many years here at this event. Adam Blocker tried to put a fly in the ointment for that team, but getting yourself 4 drivers inside the top 5, that's got to be a big accomplishment for the organisation.
Yeah, we are actually very, very happy about that. We worked very hard for this. Maybe we were not expecting to be so far back in qualifying actually, but we knew we had a great race setup. So yeah, I think this was shown today, and yeah, we're really, really happy about this.
Well, of course, we see you racing in so many series on iRacing. What's next for you, of course, now you can finally get away from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and head yourselves to the other forms of motorsports?
Yeah, next event will probably be Le Mans. We're planning in having a couple of teams there with Apex and Evolution Racing Team. So yeah, we're really, really looking forward for that, and we hope we can do well there as well.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Michele. Before we let you go, shout out sponsors. Who gets it done?
Yeah, I would like to thank obviously all the Apex Racing Team, Evolution Racing Team, Broken Arrow, and AJ and Christian Steele for helping us as well with the setup. It's been really great to work with them for this event, and yeah, hopefully we can do that in the future as well. Also, shout out to all our sponsors at Apex and Evolution.
Well, thank you very much, Michele Constantini. And we've got one more to talk to. That is Brendan Lichtenberg, stood by with Randy.
Yep, I'm stood by with Brendan. Brendan, what a run from you. You were buried in the pack, 32 cars. You roll off on the final row on the inside in 31st, and you managed to get your way up into the top 5. How difficult was it dealing with that mid-pack? For probably about the first 100 laps, I'd imagine you were stranded.
Yeah, it was kind of out of my own on an island there, but you know, I've always kind of started the pack for these races, so I'm kind of used to it. 500 miles, it's just all about patience, and that's really the key that got me to the end of the race today, and of course everyone else's help as well.
Now, Now, of course, we've talked to so many of your teammates and people you've been working with already, with, of course, Trano being your Broken Arrow teammate, and Ellis and Kevin and Michele both being Indianapolis 500 teammates to a certain extent. I mean, how is it for you guys having to work with so many different groups and such a large group of people?
I have to say it's relatively easy, to be honest. It was a stressful week. I was doing key runs at like 2 in the morning, like with other people, but everyone here working with us, just great guys. Yes, it's stressful, but like you look at the end result and you realize how much fun you've had, and I get along with them all great. It's been so much fun, just driving, testing, hanging out, you name it. It wasn't particularly hard, to be honest.
Of course, for you guys, I mean, it's been such a successful run to you. For you guys at Broken Arrow, when does testing for next year start?
I'll get back to you on that. I might need to take a shower first. Who knows?
Okay, so about 15 minutes.
Maybe. NTM 7, is that what we're on? Is that what's coming next? We'll have to wait
Something
for that
like
too.
that.
Yeah. Who knows what happens in a year? We're pretty solid for next year, though, if we just continue working hard, though, honestly.
Thanks for joining us, Brendan, and congratulations once again on the top 5. And you guys at Broken Arrow really dominating this event for the 4 cars in the top 5, essentially. Before we let you go, what's the list again for the group who gets it done for that Broken Arrow car? In case we've forgotten.
Everyone at Broken Arrow, of course, Apex, Double, FIG group. Just want to name some people who were not in the race today. Zach, AJ got taken out early. Same for Alex. I want to thank those guys. They mentioned already. And I just want to say really how proud I am of Brandon. He's worked so hard for this. I heard him screaming multiple times this week. And he's worked really hard for this. I'm so happy to pull it out. Oh, and I want to thank Ryan Gordon too. He's for all this. So, thanks, Ryan.
Well, there we are. Brendan Lichtenberg coming home 5th place here. We're just having a look here, Randy, at the last couple of laps again with Brandon Trainer on board of him. Thankfully, these IndyCars got these wonderful 360 cams. We can show you just how close it was. But the thing is, Blocker, he got himself committed to that outside line, ran the outside line, came so close. But Brandon Trainer was just able to maneuver Blocker up the racetrack on that final lap, which I think really gave him the advantage for 3 and 4.
Yeah, it definitely did, and it was very well done by Trano. We've seen a couple times that the outside can be run and can be viable. Remember Christopher Demerit on his move on Tim Holgate in the 2017 race. That was the last run, of course, in the DW12. He made his pass for the race win along the outside through 3 and 4. However, the last 2 seasons, well, we've seen close finishes, and both times the inside car is the one that won the race. Josh Chin, I believe, held the inside in the last race here last year in 2018, 13/100ths of a second. And then we just saw pretty much a very similar style finish in the last couple laps in that sense here today as well. So maybe with this IR18, a little bit less aero, you may need to isolate and try to get down to the bottom. You may not be able to make those moves stick around the outside. It'll be interesting to see what happens in 1 year's time in 2020 and what people find out.
Well, it was Brandon Traino in 2016 who came home second to Matt Pavelski. He did win one of the top split Indy 500s in 2016. However, never the big broadcasted race. He now joins himself along with Justin Dalsom, Tim Doyle, Young O, Brody Kostecki, Tim Holgate, Cam Starr, Matt Pavelski, Christopher Demerit, and Josh Chin as an Indy 500 champion. We put the Roll of Honor up on your screen for you right now, but what a day it has been here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We had ourselves 3 cautions. We had ourselves the fastest ever broadcasted iRacing Indy 500 of all time, and what a way to celebrate the 10th running of this great race. Yes, the attrition was high here today. Yes, we saw the fact that qualifying and starting position means one thing and finishing order means a completely different thing. But what we've seen once again is a number of drivers take to the field with heart and determination. We've seen some fantastic drives here today, from the drop of the green flag down at lap number 1, the likes of John Goat going around the outside, passing, making positions, to some people being bold in terms of the strategy that could almost have helped him. Adam Blocker, had the race stayed green, almost certainly would have won this race, but he almost certainly means absolutely nothing when it comes down to it at the end of the day. Adam Blocker, 13 1,000ths of a second behind Brandon Traino after 200 laps of racing. That is the second closest finish we've had in iRacing Indy 500 history, but 13 1,000ths can seem like 100 miles when you're on the receiving end of coming home in second place. What a day has been here today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Before we go, we want to say a couple of quick shout outs. First of all, to our friends over at trackcams22.com, Islam Barrow, as well as Simon Grossman, Aptioneering.in, ATVO, as well as Nick Thisson for Racebot TV, live timing and scoring. In addition, we'd like to say thank you to Virtual Racing School for being a presenting sponsor of our webcast here today. If you head over to our Facebook page, we've got ourselves a little competition for you. You can win yourself a free 1-month membership to Virtual Racing School, and who knows, it may well help you be in this race in 1 year's time. So of course, next week we've got ourselves the Day of Champions, the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. But for sim racing fans, it's the pinnacle of the year, and it has been Brandon Traino who has come home with Broken Arrow's third victory in 4 years. Thank you so much to everyone who's been a part of our broadcast, first of all on the pre-race show on Facebook Live, and for watching the entire 200 laps here in glorious 4K. Thank you to my co-commentator Randy Chenna for sticking by us for the entire broadcast, and thank you to the drivers that continue to make this event so magical. Congratulations to Broken Arrow once again. Congratulations to Brandon Traino as we say goodnight from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.